Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Well, good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back to a Friday edition of Red Pill News Live. Honey, you just said in the chat, I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend, but the weekend starts today. So I hope you're going to have a wonderful weekend. Maybe that's what you meant. But I do have a very special announcement. We need to wish a very happy birthday to a viewer out there in the chat on Rumble. Eleanor, 2000. Happy birthday, Eleanor. I hope your 35th birthday is full of wonderful things. Great wishes for your future. You've got a bright, bright future ahead of you, young lady. Happy birthday, Eleanor. All right, so what was it? 2 or 3 days ago, I told you guys something was going to happen in Maricopa. Turns out my source was right. There was a press conference earlier today with Kristi, Noem, and DHS. And it looks to me like this is just the start of the federal government's actions in Arizona. I think probably Pennsylvania is going to be coming up next, if I had to bet. Doesn't really take a genius to predict these things, especially with what just happened in Maricopa County. But still, it's exciting all the same. Now, if you guys haven't yet, do me a favor, hit that like button. Help us out by sharing the show. That would be awesome. And please do wish Eleanor a happy birthday in the chat. I want to give a big special shout out to several Patriots over there on Pilled. We'll do that in just a moment because we've got to sit back, relax, and grab our popcorn because we're going to get into it right about now. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, we have a big show for you today. Of course, we're going to be talking about a lot more than just Maricopa County and election security. Also want to say thank you so much to Redfish. Thank you for the cookie. Smot Poker, thank you for the ship, my friend. Appreciate you. Good evening, beautiful Patriots, he says. Candylicious says, great afternoon, Patriots. Thank you for the cookie. P-Quest, thank you for the cookie. And Trump1 says, happy Friday. Thank you for that as well. All right. And also, once again, thank you to anybody who has donated through the website. You know, that doesn't come up as a notification. You don't see it on screen. So you are quite literally the silent benefactors of Red Pill News. You guys are awesome, though. Really do appreciate it. If you are not aware, if you are on social media, you can also follow me on X or on Truth Social or Gab or Getter, or you can also support the show through Subscribestar, and on all of those platforms, you get daily notifications before my show goes live. Also on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/redpill78. When you donate through Ko-Fi, much like a Rumble rant or a Pilled Gold, you will also see a notification on screen, but Ko-Fi is a little fun because you see President Trump dancing, and then I got to go and find the message, and then I'll read it to the audience. All right, so we are going to begin today with, and actually let me just close down a couple of tabs here, a special message because Valentine's Day, or as some might say, Valentine's Day, is going to be coming up this weekend. Of course, today is the 13th. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And Army Counterintelligence Command just wants to remind everybody out there that 10 plus 5 doesn't equal 15. It equals honey trap. And as you can see from this hilarious meme they just posted, are you a spy? Because you're way too cute to be talking to me. They want to remind everybody that it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out that if she's too hot to be talking to you, she is probably not there to get into your pants. She is, well, even though she may, but she's probably going to be looking for some secret intel that you are not legally allowed to divulge. But happy Valentine's Day. And this is a special message that probably many should have taken to heart before they got themselves into a sticky situation like this guy in our first story. His name is Peter Magyar, and he's had a couple of instances of controversy. He is now being looked at because he was previously, or maybe is currently, in the European Union Parliament, but he is sort of like the globalist candidate who is running against Viktor Orban in Hungary. He's being pushed by the European Union, being pushed by the globalists. But Peter Magyar is also a victim of a honey trap operation himself. It turns out that back in August of 2024, after he was elected to the European Parliament, he celebrated by going to a drug-fueled party in Budapest where someone in a clandestine manner filmed him having sex with perhaps a prostitute, perhaps someone who was not legally able to have sex with him. We don't know exactly. All we know is that he's admitting to doing drugs, having sex, and being filmed. So now it's coming out right before the Hungarian election. Now, this also occurred before another scandal that he was involved in. He was apparently at a disco, and he ended up hitting a guy in the face, stealing his phone, and then throwing it into the river Danube. Now, he's apologized for the scandal, and the European Union stood behind him, but I hope that the people of Hungary don't stand behind him in this latest scandal. So he has claimed that his former girlfriend lured him into a compromising situation, and although others are saying that he did drugs, he is rejecting the idea that he did drugs. But let me tell you, I know a thing or two about these globalist politicians, and one of the only things that they love more than clandestine sex with people they should not be sleeping with, it tends to be cocaine, ecstasy, alcohol. Like, they are welcome to engage in all manner of debauchery because they think that they are above the law. They think that nobody is going to make them answer for the misdeeds that they've done. Now, he claims it was his girlfriend, but I don't know about you guys. I've never had a girlfriend who lured me into a situation where she could get me on tape having sex with her. That just doesn't sound like a legitimate relationship. It sounds to me like he went to this drug-fueled party. He met a girl. That girl took him into a bedroom where a camera had previously been set up, all ready to catch him in a compromising position. It sounds like your standard honey trap, Jeffrey Epstein type operation. Now, this is his announcement apologizing for what happened. I don't know if it's in English, so let's just listen real quick.
Kedves honfitársaim!
No, it's in Hungarian, so we don't need to listen to it. I think that the Hungarian people are smart enough. I mean, Viktor Orban has done an incredible job for Hungary. They're one of the only European Union countries that is thriving, largely having to do with their rebuke of the sort of rules-based order of the new world order, and much closer aligned to the sovereign alliance of the United States, Russia, and China. So they too, in Hungary, are fighting back against the satanic pedophile globalists. Let me say thank you to AOB22. Dang, I led a sedate life. I lead a sedate life, and I love it. Happy weekend, everyone. Thanks, Lisa and Zach, for everything you do. Thank you so much for that, my friend. And there is nothing wrong with living a life that is under the radar. And when I'm not on the air, that's basically what I do. Lisa and I are real homebodies. And so as a result, we don't have crazy things like this that are going to pop up. Even when I was doing drugs and drinking, like, nobody ever caught me on camera having sex with somebody that I didn't know I was being filmed. Filter Dog 1 says, big plans for Valentine's Day. No, we don't actually have big plans for Valentine's Day. I got Lisa some flowers and some chocolate-covered strawberries, and we've enjoyed those, that's for sure. I would imagine we're probably going to end up going out to dinner or something like that. But, you know, it is tough with the dogs. What we really need is, like, somebody who lives locally that would, like, just stay here and watch the dogs for us, because they get into some trouble when we're not at home. Muffin is quite mischievous. I think I told you guys a couple of years ago, we caught Muffin using basically like a series of pedestals and obstacles to get on top of the kitchen counter. And once she learned that she could sneak her way up onto the kitchen counter, she was getting into all kinds of things. We found food that was missing, and her treats would be out. And I set up a camera, and I never put the footage out because Lisa didn't want me showing off the inside of the house because she's obviously private. But the Muffin like got up on the counter and she like sniffed around and she found what she wanted and then she left. And then like maybe a half hour later, she couldn't help herself and she came back up just to see if anything was different. So anyways, let me say thank you to Trisha as well. She says, I wonder, Zach, I saw a video of him talking about how Muslims are taking over the European countries. I agree with everything he said. Do you think maybe he's being attacked, maligned for his views? You're talking about Peter Magyar? Because no, I don't think that Peter Magyar is being maligned for his views. I mean, make no mistake. I mean, he is the candidate of choice for the European Union. They want to take down Viktor Orban. What would not surprise me is if Peter Magyar was attempting to sound based so that he could get elected and usurp Viktor Orban. And then once in that office, he would be able to implement much of what the European Union wants done in Hungary. I mean, the only reason that Hungary has not been overrun by illegals is because they haven't capitulated to the desires of the European Union. So I would say no. I don't think Peter Magyar is our guy. CNS 1000 says, in 9 months, you could be hunting or changing diapers. Make wise decisions this Valentine's Day. Yes, if you do not have children and you are of age, then I would suggest you go ahead and do so. Now, I'd also like to tell you about Don Lemon, because today he and several other of the seditious, the church protesters, or however you want to define them, the violators of the FACE Act and the Enforcement Act, they showed up in St. Paul, Minnesota at a courthouse for their arraignment. This is Don Lemon walking in. He appears to be a little cocksure, if you know what I mean.
Space, please.
Smiling, waving. Not making any public comments, but definitely looking sure of himself. Waving, very confident, very, very confident. Well, that didn't last long, and when he came out of that hearing, he definitely did not answer any questions, and he left a lot quicker than he walked in. Now, this is pretty funny, but a whole bunch of protesters, leftist Antifa-style protesters, were out there allegedly supporting Don Lemon, but they were there with signs and Palestinian and Mexican flags, and they were waving dildos around. I'm not sure that that's the way you want to support a gay man who is being charged with something that is potentially going to put him in prison for the next 20 to 30 years. I mean, waving dildos around outside of a court hearing with Don Lemon almost sounds to me like a troll. It doesn't really sound like a show of solidarity. So they were there and they were screaming, "Protect the press," and one individual who was there said that the mood was like a surreal circus. So let's go ahead and take a look. No, that is from a different. Oh, gosh. No, this is from the other day when they were waving dildos around. Maybe they just had them left over from the last dildo protest. And they said, you know what? We've already invested all of this money into the dildos. We might as well take them with us to the Don Lemon court hearing. So anyways, what happened in the court hearing is that gay wave. I like that. That's hilarious. So at this court hearing, Don Lemon pled not guilty. I believe everyone pled not guilty. But the thing that I think caught Don Lemon by surprise is that prosecutors confiscated his phone. They requested his phone because they want all of the footage before the actual event that took place. And they said that there's a lot of stuff on Don Lemon's phone that they want to get a look at. Now, of course, that's most likely going to be private communications dealing with the planning of this event, which will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did, in fact, violate the FACE Act and the Enforcement Act. But when Don Lemon came out, he ran straight to his car. He did not talk to anybody. It was it seemed to be a little bit stressed out.
We could obviously see Don Lemon. We got a little bit of color inside the courtroom.
As I look down, holler if you see him here. He is sitting with his legs crossed, elbow resting on the table, while one of his attorneys spoke. He looked right at the governor's attorney as they were discussing his phone, because they have requested his phone, Shannon.
And listen, he has framed this as a First Amendment issue, as practicing journalism, as being a free voice. And he's got a lot of advocates on his side to say, listen, journalists have to be able to walk into difficult places and document what's happening. I think what's a difficult thing for him potentially is there is so much of him on camera that we've seen prior to the live stream in the church.
I will remind you, one of the most shocking and blatant admissions of Don Lemon's own guilt was when they were driving to the church, and he admitted that, number one, he knew they were going to a church, but then as they were on their way, he's also discussing the legality of actually covering the event itself. And he tells the people in his car, his like boy servants or man servants, whoever they are, that it's not okay for them to actually go into the church, that they must stay outside the church, that if they're going to cover it as journalists, then they can't participate in the event itself. But of course, Don Lemon's ego took over, and he did go into the church, and it was not simply a case of journalistic integrity. Don Lemon actively protested with these people, on top of the aspect of him plotting and planning it and having the foreknowledge of exactly what these protesters intended to do, which was, of course, to intimidate, to violate the First Amendment of these parishioners who were merely in the process of worshiping our Lord Jesus Christ.
Part of the live stream in the church, and also what we've heard from some of the parishioners who were there about exactly what was said and done, that doesn't seem like it was purely just documenting what was going on. But I think he enjoys this opportunity, probably, if he comes out and talks to the camera, to say this is a First Amendment battle. There's a lot of protection for journalists in this country. The question is whether or not the court will believe, or jurors potentially will believe, that's what he was doing that day.
All right.
Now, another interesting fact that I haven't mentioned yet, you remember former U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson. He was the Minneapolis-based U.S. attorney that initially blew the lid off of all of this fraud, waste, and abuse that was taking place in Minnesota. He left the U.S. Attorney's Office when the Department of Justice wanted him and his team to investigate the girlfriend of Renee Nicole Good for her behavior after Renee was shot and killed while trying to kill a CBP officer. He has now been hired as Don Lemon's lead attorney. How ironic that the former U.S. attorney from the very district that is now going to be prosecuting Don Lemon is now going to be defending Don Lemon in a case that, from all appearances on the outside, Don Lemon has a very, very slim chance of beating. Now, I do understand that this is Minnesota, but I also believe that the federal government is going to do everything in their power to ensure that the jury for these various accused is truly going to be impartial, and they're going to do everything they can to try to make sure that they don't get any interlopers in there. All right, let me move from this. Now, also, it's Tony, man. Thank you, Tony. Good to see you, buddy. He says, hi, Zach and Lisa. Have a great weekend. His lawyers are going to make a nice chunk out of his bank account. Outstanding. That could be it. Maybe Joe Thompson decided, you know what, it's time for a payday. I watched all of these Somali scammers rip off the government of the United States. It's about high time that I rip off Don Lemon. I don't know. Hopefully that's exactly what it is. Funky Joe Medina, good to see you. Can we please see Muffingate? I promise you before the end of the show, we will watch Muffingate. Absolutely. Now, let's take a look at the statement coming from City's church. This is the church that these people burst into where they violated the First Amendment of everyone who was attending on that day. Let's see. So this is the statement from Renee Carlson for True North Legal. True North Legal are the attorneys that are representing the pastor, the church, and I would imagine a number of the parishioners. By pleading not guilty, Don Lemon and other defendants are doubling down on their claim that the press can do whatever they want, under the auspices of journalism while also defending the invasion of a church. This was a coordinated and planned operation. The First Amendment does not protect premeditated schemes to violate the sanctity of a sanctuary, disrupt worship services, or intimidate children. There is no to trespass on church property or conspire to invade religious worship. It is not journalism to accost a pastor who was about to read scripture to his congregation. While the Constitution restrains government from infringing fundamental rights, it also obligates government to protect those rights when private actors threaten them. True North Legal is grateful that the Department of Justice stepped in when Minnesota's leaders stepped aside instead of protecting the church. Here is a statement from Doug Wardlow. He is the director of litigation for True North. The First Amendment protects the fundamental freedom to engage in religious worship. It is up to the government to make sure that the First Amendment is not just an empty promise. This is why we have laws like the FACE Act that make it a crime to intimidate and interfere with religious worship in church. The city's church invaders disrupted a peaceful worship service by announcing that the time for their judgment had come. They terrorized families and children with threatening chants, putting some congregants in fear of their lives. Thankfully, the U.S. Department of Justice acted decisively and brought these attackers to face justice. True North Legal is honored to represent City's Church to help ensure that all people can attend church and worship God free from the fear of violence or intimidation. And finally, a statement from Jonathan Parnell, the lead pastor at City's Church. Our church, like countless others around the world, gathers each Sunday to worship Jesus. Until January 18th, 2026, we had done so in peace, grateful for the freedoms we enjoy in this nation. But that morning, just as I was about to read from John 13 on Jesus' command to love one another, that peace was shattered. A group of agitators disrupted our service, accosted our members, and terrified our children. It was wrong, it was shameful, and it should never happen again. God willing, the agitators will answer for their actions in a court of earthly justice. Yet my message remains the same. Should any of them turn from their sins and trust in Christ, they need not fear the court of heaven. This is our prayer. Absolutely fantastic. Love it, love it, love it, love it. All right. Now, moving on from Don Lemon, we also have new details coming out in the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Thanks to a lawsuit brought by Judicial Watch, we have now just received our first batch of Butler assassination documents. Now, the information tells us in these documents that prior to the start of shooting, Redacted received reports over the radio about an unknown male acting suspiciously. That, I'm assuming, is Thomas Crooks, the person who was, acting as Thomas Crooks on that day. The unknown male had bags, and he was wearing a gray T-shirt with Demolition Ranch written on the front of it. One report included the unknown male looking at a law enforcement sniper position. Several operators were communicating information about the unknown male back and forth over the radio, including to and from command to the Secret Service, to PSA, which was the PSP, which is the Pennsylvania State Police, to everybody. Now, Judicial Watch has also written an article about it. We're going to take a look at that. I'm not expecting anything that we don't possibly already know yet. Not exactly certain how detailed these Butler documents are going to get, but certainly considering that we've essentially been told nothing, I think it's worth diving into. Now, so this document tranche includes 37 heavily redacted pages. It's coming as a result of a FOIA request from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and it basically reveals that law enforcement personnel were broadcasting radio warnings about the unknown male that was acting suspiciously prior to the events that took place on that day, kind of driving home the idea that this was an event that never needed to take place. And in my mind, it solidifies the concept that it was allowed to take place. So the lawsuit was filed all the way back in July of last year, just to give you an idea of how long sometimes these things take. The records include a July 16th, 2024 302 which is an investigative report, the notes from an FBI agent that state on the day of the shooting, prior to the shooting, we had the sighting. They were broadcasting it over the radio. A July 15th electronic communication titled Opening EC for Investigation of Thomas Matthew Crooks that launched the actual investigation into Crooks. And also, given that Crooks was killed by the Secret Service agents, they were unable to determine his motivation immediately. There was also a July 14th investigative report describing an unidentified acquaintance of Crooks and his family. That acquaintance indicated that sometime between May and June of that year, Crooks was dehydrated and needed to be taken to the hospital. Redacted stated that she thought it was strange that Redacted did not take him to the hospital themselves. Not exactly certain who that is. That would be interesting. I wonder if that was his family who failed to take him to the hospital, or maybe someone he had been with on that day. Perhaps his connect within the Pennsylvania government, or perhaps within Joe Biden's FBI. We've got an electronic communication from the 16th stating on the previous day the FBI returned a flip phone seized as evidence and stating that the lead is fully covered. We've got a report from the 16th noting that on the previous day, a person who was a neighbor describes the Crook family as normal, nice people. They seemed normal, and he seemed like just a normal, dorky kid. There's a communication from the 16th detailing that acting on a tip sent to the FBI regarding the concerning Facebook post from Thomas Crooks. Facebook, damn bad shot, would have done the world a service. Someone obviously commenting on Facebook. And then another comment on the original post. We should watch his freaking brains blown away. On the 16th as well, a business card was located at the crime scene. A person associated with it was investigated. Nothing derogatory about the individual was identified after we did an interview. The July 16th interview report states investigators talked with an individual who had attended the rally. Redacted recalled that approximately 5 minutes after the shots were fired, a light silver Subaru hatchback sped past her and almost struck her. The witness didn't remember the vehicle having any stickers or distinct markings. Witness didn't get a look at the license plate, but believed the driver to be an older white male with short hair and tan skin. Witness saw the Subaru in the parking lot near houses, specifically a brown house with a pool. The vehicle departed the parking lot, made a sharp right turn near the buildings. Witness was with another individual in the parking lot and observed the vehicle as well. Witness described the vehicle as a 2017 silver Subaru Forester. Witness noted the terrain was too rough to drive at the rate of speed the Subaru was going. The redacted thought the incident with the vehicle occurred maybe 10 minutes after the shooting. Sounds like somebody was trying to get out of the scene. We also have another interview from the 16th detailing observations of a member of the Saxonburg Police Department. Witness was on the counter assault team. His position was in the turret inside the armor vehicle next to the barns behind the stage. Witness stated the sniper teams called out and sent photos of a suspicious person with a rangefinder. Witness stated he watched the guy fitting the description walking from the water tower to the stage area and outer view. He did not see anything on the individual. Witness stated prior to anything happening, he saw 4 people, 1 child, walking away from the American Glass Research Building towards the houses, then 2 units off in the direction of where the shooter was later found. A call came in over the radio of a long gun on the roof. Shortly after shots started going off, the witness rode in the armor behind the tents near the stage, but did not ever have a view of the roof where the shooter was. Witness ran out of the armored vehicle with a ladder to the AGR and was told that they didn't need any more guys on the roof, so he came back and held security for a medic working on the deceased individual, and the Secret Service took over the tent. In a July 16th interview from another witness, she noticed a white male with dark hair interacting with a uniformed law enforcement officer. They both were seen looking at 2 open windows of the property building adjacent to the AGR building. The white male told the officer that those windows were not supposed to be open. Redacted saw the windows that appeared to be open from the inside. As the officer walked around towards the other side of the building, the white male stood on the side where the windows were facing towards the event stage. Shortly thereafter, at approximately 6 p.m., she heard another white male yell, "He's got a gun, everybody run." This white male appeared to be in his late, Redacted, who was seen wearing a white t-shirt, who had dark-colored hair and a redacted, maybe a goatee. She remembered seeing a panicked look on his face after he yelled. Redacted heard 6 gunshots that sounded like they came from those 2 open windows. She took Redacted and ran towards the vehicle along with many others from the crowd. She lost Redacted in the crowd but continued running towards the vehicle. And Redacted and another white man who helped with getting Redacted to the vehicle. She eventually located the person she was looking for with the help of the same male. She recalled seeing law enforcement officer wearing a brown tan uniform, but she did not see a patch. When she returned to the vehicle, she recalled seeing the Suburban still parked behind her with no occupants inside. She departed the scene. After reflection, Redacted thought the security outside of the fence line was a concern because there was a lot of open access. She did not see anybody screening individuals near outside the fence. Redacted told agents she does not support conspiracy theorists, or is she one, but she wanted to provide the information to investigators just in case it would help with the investigation. There is another interview that was included detailing the observations of a member of the Slippery Rock Police Department who was a member of the Butler Emergency Services Unit. Once Trump started to move toward the stage, Redacted and the Bravo squad were prepared to move in the armored vehicle. At that time, a report came in over the radio stating there was a male on one of the roofs, not sure which roof, that the male had a long gun. Almost immediately after that report came over the radio, they heard several gunshots. The witness was not sure how many, possibly 7 or 8. The Bravo squad then responded in the armored vehicle to the grandstand. When they arrived, they exited the armored vehicle and pushed up the grandstand. They were there briefly attempting to determine what was happening and then pulled back. At that time, the witness observed a male on the ground with a gunshot wound to his chest. The team then formed a tight perimeter around the medics as they addressed the injured male. The Secret Service then requested a tactical team to provide security at the Butler Hospital. Redacted and 3 other operators drove the armored vehicle to the hospital and formed a hard perimeter around the outside of the hospital and the helicopter landing pad. Redacted stayed there until they took Donald Trump out. Tom Fitton says these documents raise some troubling new questions about the failures of the Secret Service. It shouldn't have taken years and a federal lawsuit to get this information brought forward. Now, there are multiple additional lawsuits. Hopefully there's a lot more in terms of documentation that we will see in the future. And I hope that they do a real investigation. But I keep going back to that idea that President Trump knows what happened. He knows who was behind it. And for whatever reason, he is the one who shut this investigation down. I mean, I personally can't imagine having an assassination attempt on my life and then in the middle of the investigation just saying, you know what, I don't care anymore. I feel like there's got to be a greater reason as to why we haven't continued to hear about this. Okay, G. Fontes says, wow, what a cool bathroom at this party. Fill in the blank intercourse partner. Get out your spy cam and record us while we use erotic asphyxiation on each other, and be sure to leave marks. All right, now, we just have learned the buyer of Zorro Ranch, and it's notable because I got some stuff about Zorro Ranch. Turns out that in 2023, through the use of an LLC, the man you see on screen, who is Texas State Senator Don Huffines, who is running for another political office in the state of Texas, he and his family are the ones who purchased Zorro Ranch. And we can see here from the agent's authorization, it's signed by Mary Catherine Huffines as the trustee for the San Rafael Ranch LLC organization. Now, let me leave the reader view here. Now, I'm not from Texas, so I don't know anything about Don Huffines. It sounds like I've heard his name before. But he is currently running for a comptroller. He's running for state comptroller. All right, so they put out a statement, and they said, 4 years after Mr. Epstein's death, the Huffines family purchased property in New Mexico listed at public auction, whose proceeds benefited the victims. Prior to the auction listing, they had never visited the property. Now, other than that, Huffine's spokesperson has not answered any questions about why it was they chose to purchase the property. It sold for an undisclosed price in 2023, and at one time in July of 2021, it had been listed for $27.5 million. Eventually, that dropped to $18 million. And the value of the property for tax purposes in 2023 was listed at $13.4 million. Now, originally, they had valued it at $21.1 million, but the purchasers, through this San Rafael Ranch LLC organization, they protested. They got it lowered just a little bit. So it appears that this was a report that first was obtained by the New Mexican, which is a news organization in New Mexico. I'm not familiar with it, so I can't comment on it any further than that. But it is Don Huffine's wife, Mary Catherine Huffines, whose name appears on this document, and that's how they were able to connect it to Don himself. I don't know if they're living there. I mean, they must not be. They must have it as sort of I guess maybe a vacation home or something like that. Obviously, if he's a Texas state senator and a candidate for another office in Texas, that's his primary residence. Now, he's been, well, he currently is the front runner for the GOP comptroller primary race. And his website says that he is running the Doge organization for the Texas state government. He seems like a normal sort of Republican. I mean, his campaign website shows that he wants to abolish woke DEI. He wants to eliminate benefits for illegal aliens. Okay, cool. I wasn't able to find anything about him in the files, so it didn't look to me like there was any prior relationship or communication, even a reference to Don Huffines in the emails. It also appears that he had been endorsed by Charlie Kirk when he was alive. Looks like he was also endorsed by Ted Cruz. I don't know that that is a plus. But yeah, so just an interesting bit of information. Why? Because we would need the approval of the Huffines family if we were going to send investigators onto Zorro Ranch to do any sort of investigation into what may have happened there. And I bring that up because there was a specific report about a New Mexico state official who has actually requested an investigation of Zorro Ranch. And you may remember this email. I showed this briefly on another show. I don't remember which one, but this is an email from November of 2019. So after Jeffrey Epstein had been killed, there was a couple of tips that came in about Zorro Ranch, specifically about dead girls that may be buried on the Zorro Ranch property. Now, this particular email right here appears to be some sort of a ransom note, and it's written to an individual that is redacted, but their name is Edward. So it says, Edward, this is sensitive, so will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person who's been there and seen it all as a former staff at Zorro Ranch. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside of Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G? Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. And then he provides videos which allege to include video of Jeffrey Epstein having sex with a minor. That video is 13 minutes and 57 seconds. A second video is 27 minutes long, and it includes a threesome, not mentioned who is specifically in that, but I would assume it's Jeffrey Epstein. Another 13-minute video with a threesome. Another 19-minute video, which claims to show underage sex. A 7-minute, 31-second video with an underage girl and someone named Matthew Mellon. We have another 23, nearly 24-minute video of an underage girl, which is labeled rape fantasy. And then another 15-minute, 19-second video, which is audio. And it says, girl from the Bay Area suicide attempt confession to Madam G. Now, this individual who sent this email requested 1 Bitcoin by 6 p.m. at the end of this day, which was November 21st, 2019. No, I'm sorry. They say Thursday, 11/22/2019, to a Bitcoin wallet address. It says, once you send that Bitcoin, the USB will be sent anonymously to your attention by overnight courier upon receipt of the funds. You have my assurance this is exclusive, never shared before, no attorneys, no samples, no questions, please confirm ASAP. Now, there's nothing to indicate that whoever it was that received this message responded to it, but it was definitely forwarded to somebody else. I would assume it may have been forwarded to law enforcement or something like that. But because of this message, because of these claims of dead girls in the hills of Zorro Ranch, just this week, a New Mexico state official, the land commissioner, her name is Stephanie Garcia Richard, she says that to her knowledge, neither the state land nor the Zorro Ranch land has ever been searched as part of a criminal investigation. I can confirm that as well. It was one of the things that just boggled my mind at the time that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and then, removed from the story. So she's out there publicly calling for an investigation into the public land and the actual private land on Zorro Ranch after this particular email I just read you about the 2 foreign girls potentially being buried there. Now, the land commissioner said she requested an investigation after learning about this 2019 email included in these new documents. It was sent to a conservative radio host, it would appear. Now, the act was allegedly done at the direction of Epstein and Ghislaine. There was a very disturbing allegation that came out and could potentially be linked to state land, Garcia Richard said, because I am the manager of that land. I'm the elected steward of that land, and what occurs there and what that land is used for is of the utmost interest and importance to us at the state land office. She said to her knowledge, again, neither Zorro Ranch nor that public land had been searched as part of any criminal investigation. From reviewing historical documents, Garcia Richard said it appears the leased state land may have been used as a buffer around the ranch. It seems like the state land was almost used as a buffer to shield or hide whatever activity was occurring on the ranch so that they could insulate visibility of what was actually occurring there. She also said she's concerned the land could be a potential crime scene. I think that is a fair fear to have. If state land was used for criminal activity, she said, that is definitely something New Mexicans need to know. Those are answers that victims and survivors need to have. Now, Garcia Richard said she has the authority to cancel leases on state land and confirmed that any party associated with Epstein was removed from the property. The lease was canceled in 2019 and it has not been issued to anyone else. However, she said the state land office does not have law enforcement authority. We are looking to partner with other agencies that do have that capacity to investigate the land. Garcia Richard also said technologies exist in Mexico to conduct searches for possible unmarked graves, including ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs. I sure hope that they actually do this. The land in question is fairly large, she said, but investigators would likely focus first on a specific area referenced as the hills behind Zorro Ranch, which she said is definitely state land. Garcia Richard said she has asked the New Mexico Department of Justice and federal authorities to get involved, and she plans to pursue other state partnerships if necessary. She said she's also reached out to the Attorney General's office back in 2019 seeking an investigation, but nothing was done at that time. Likely because of Jeffrey Epstein's connections to rich and powerful people within the New Mexico bureaucracy. I mean, not only was the former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, a frequent guest of Jeffrey Epstein's, also someone who had on many occasions been rumored to have his own predilections towards younger girls. But of course, Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch mysteriously and inexplicably won an $80 million Powerball ticket like the day he got convicted down in Florida. It was almost like it was a payoff for him to not say anything about anybody else. So I sincerely hope that they end up doing this. Let me see. Chickasaw Girl says, Don Huffines has many car dealerships. That's how I know the name. Okay, that is definitely how I know the name. He tried to run against Abbott as a Republican, never could win the primary. Okay, all right. Well, I would hope that the Huffines family would come forward and say, we have no qualms about state authorities coming and checking out any of the land abutting our property or even coming onto our property if they think that it's necessary. I mean, let's put it to rest. Let's make sure that there's no bodies in those hills. Let's make sure that there's nothing that needs to be investigated. And the only way we can find that out is to do the investigation. I mean, that is square one. They never did an investigation in New Mexico. It needs to be done. Okay, now, yeah, Bill Richardson was a terrible, terrible man. Now, moving on from that, I mentioned a couple of times the performance of Pam Bondi. It got middling. It got mixed reviews, I should say. Some middling to positive, some very positive, some middling to negative. I mean, it seems like, the people across the spectrum had their own ideas of just how good a job Pam Bondi did. I know a lot of people liked seeing her kind of spar with the Democrats on the committee. It seems President Trump also enjoyed seeing that. I thought that there was perhaps an opportunity that she had to maybe address some questions and even to maybe put the minds of people at ease. I didn't even talk about this either, but one thing that did come out from that hearing is that while Pam Bondi was sitting there in front of the committee, she had a binder which seemed to have the browsing history of every Democrat and Republican that were on the committee. Like, the government was tracking what key terms the members of the committee were looking up in the Epstein files. Some people perceived that to be something that they were attempting to chill investigations, but I tend to think that it points more to the idea that the federal government was looking to see in what ways these people on the committee might possibly incriminate themselves without realizing it. If you've got somebody on that committee that had a connection to someone in the Epstein files and they immediately go and search for that, well, that gives you an idea of where you might need to look. And of course, we're talking about millions of pages of documents. But President Trump had this to say about Bondi's testimony before the Judiciary Committee. He said, Bondi, under intense fire from the Trump-deranged radical left lunatics, was fantastic at yesterday's hearing on the never-ending saga of Jeffrey Epstein, where the one thing that has been proven conclusively, much to their chagrin, was that President Donald J. Trump has been 100% exonerated of their ridiculous Russia type charges. And he is correct. He also further slammed the slimeball Democrats, many of them big donors and politicians who have been proven guilty. He said, despite zero attempts by the Bondi DOJ to prosecute Epstein co-conspirators. Republican loser, sanctimonious rhino Congressman Thomas Massie made a total fool of himself yesterday, fighting aimlessly against a hopeless agenda of hate and stupidity. He is now in wacky Liz Cheney territory, he added, doubling down on his endorsement for Massey's primary challenger. Now, this might piss a couple of people off, but I feel like I need to say it. The death of Massey's wife was sudden and unexpected. Massey commented on it afterwards, and he said that it wasn't unexpected for them. They knew she had been sick for some time. They just hadn't said it publicly. But what was even more unexpected for me was that Thomas Massie married that much younger woman who was an aide for one of his colleagues in Congress. I don't remember which one she worked for, but he had known her before his wife died, and they got married very quickly after his wife died. That really rubbed me the wrong way. I think that I felt like that was in poor taste. And, of course, I'm sure Thomas Massie and his new wife would say, how dare you judge us for loving the way that we're going to love? Yes, she worked for Ron Paul. Thank you very much. And, and people here in the audience might tell me that I have no right to judge Thomas Massie for what he chose to do. But I got to be honest. I'm just saying it. I felt like it was a bad look. I felt like it made it made for strange bedfellows. It did not appear to be the kind of thing that you would expect someone to do after their wife had passed away. Now, why is none of my stuff working over here? This is crazy. Okay. Thanks again, Chickasaw Girl. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Okay, now, that's weird. I'm having weird things happen with Rumble Studio today. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, so anyways, but if you'll notice, Thomas Massey's, he kind of changed after his wife died. You know, I mean, initially, he looked to me like he was suffering, right? I want them to be happy as well, but I mean, he is like a 55-year-old man, and how young was she? She's like 20-plus years his junior. I mean, it's the kind of thing you expect in D.C. or Hollywood, but it kind of looks scummy. I mean, I can't get away from it. But Thomas Massey's attitude on a lot of this stuff changed after his wife died, and then, you know, he married this woman. I'm not saying that she is evil or that she's like, you know, controlling him or something like that. I'm just saying the whole situation seems very strange to me. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens in DC, and I used to really respect Thomas Massey, and I feel like, I feel like he changed. Anyways, let me see. So here's the thing that, oh, shit, Massey's our employee and wouldn't hesitate to judge you or I if it suited him to do so. You're probably right. I tend to refrain from judgment often because I know that nobody's perfect, and I know that there's always something that, you know, it's not, I don't have it in my mind. They've got it, and they know something that I likely don't. It could be that they are madly in love and that she supported him through a very difficult time, and it was exactly what he needed. And, you know, if that's it, so be it. All right. But, you know, although President Trump appreciated the way that Pam Bondi came off, like I said, a lot of people did not really care for it. And I go back to my statement the other day during my initial apprisement of how that went down. You know, I thought that it didn't make the administration look good. I didn't think it made Pam Bondi look good. But of course, there is the old axiom of appearing weak when you are strong. And right now, I think the administration is in probably the strongest position they've ever been in. And for Pam Bondi to come off like that, it sort of made it appear as if the administration doesn't know where they're going with this Epstein stuff. But I don't think that's the case. I think that they definitely have a direction that they're going. It's just a matter of getting there. Now, I want to say thank you to Artsy Joan. Happy Valentine's Day to you and Lisa. Thank you so much, Joan. I really do appreciate you. It means a lot. All right. Now, before we get into the next Epstein email, I have a brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, they can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your money. They can do it overnight because banks do not protect you. They control you, and they know it. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. So introducing Rumble Wallet. It's a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. Because with Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can actually own Tether Gold. That is real gold on the blockchain. And through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated. Verifiable by serial number, purity, verifiable by weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. And you can buy, sell, or move that gold 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That is powerful. So when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using that Rumble wallet. There's a tip button on the homepage of my channel, or you can get the Rumble Wallet app and you can search for me and do it that way. It's peer-to-peer. It's outside the banking system. There's no fees or anything for doing that. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And the wallet is yours forever. So head on over to wallet.rumble.com. Use that QR code if you're on Rumble or the other platforms where you can see it. And thank you very much to Rumble and everybody who supports the show. Wounds Are Us says, check out a post on X from Barry Cunningham from 5 hours ago. Explains why DOJ had that info. Ah, well, thank you very much, Wounds Are Us. Okay, let me go ahead and go there before we take a look. X.com. Okay, Barry Cunningham at Barry Cunningham. Okay, I think this is the guy. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So yes, like I said, some people were indicating that they thought that meant that the DOJ was spying on them. Okay, so the standard statement or warning banner displayed on U.S. government computers explicitly notifies they have no reason. Okay, obviously they have no reasonable expectation of privacy on government systems. By proceeding to use the system, they consent to monitoring. I think everybody knows that. Okay, House of Representatives. Okay, so doesn't exactly say why they have the information, only that the government has the right to have that information. So I go back to what I said and suggest that it was a bit of a honeypot. I think that they wanted to see who was looking at what, because that would give an indication of perhaps what Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirators might be worried about. It also might lead the government down a direction of investigation that perhaps they had not thought of yet. There are probably a lot of people within the DOJ who have not been like deep into Epstein lore and research for as long as many people out here have been. Now, this is a particularly disgusting email, and it's sent from John Brockman to Jeffrey Epstein. And it includes a savethedate.jpg attachment. But the message said, well, first, Jeffrey Epstein asks John if he's well. And John replies, better than well. Things are going well, but no, Jeffrey. When am I going to see you? Give me a call tomorrow if you're bored, at home. And then he gives him his phone number. And he says, Happy Hanukkah, John Brockman. P.S. This is the disturbing part. You missed the big event on Saturday. A party with a dozen beautiful East Side girls. And in parentheses, he says, well, a dozen one-year-olds. That, to me, looks like the kind of investigative lead that you might want to go down. I've never been excited about attending a party with a dozen one-year-old babies. That's pretty disgusting to me, especially when we know everything that we know about Jeffrey Epstein and all of his co-conspirators. Now, let's talk about some of the payback that associates of Jeffrey Epstein are getting. If you'll remember, the sender of the infamous torture video was the CEO of Dubai's DP World, that man by the name of Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem. He was exposed publicly because Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna, God bless their souls on this one, had his name unredacted, and they told the world. He's now been forced to step down from his position, and I think that this is a major win. You can add this to the list of global figures who had ongoing relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, talking about very disturbing things, who were literally at the peak of their life. CEOs, bankers, ambassadors, world leaders, prime ministers, lawyers, you name it. Jeffrey Epstein was choosing his social circle from the cream of the crop of who's in business, politics, and banking. So the Sultan has resigned officially as of this morning, and the company has further announced that they already have a new chairman and a new CEO. Now, even more interesting than him stepping down from his position, shortly after he stepped down, he also was arrested by authorities in the UAE because not only did he lose his job, but he is also being criminally investigated for the torture videos and probably for a whole host of other very disturbing things that this guy likes to get up to. He is the perfect example of global elites who believe that the law does not apply to them. But now he's finding out that although they may do things a little bit differently than we do in the UAE, one thing that they don't like is sick pedophiles who send torture videos of their favorite torture games to human traffickers like Jeffrey Epstein. So he is now no longer even roaming the streets freely. He is very wealthy. I would imagine, much like the Saudi cleanup of 2017, he's probably going to end up having all of his wealth forfeited and confiscated by the UAE. This, my friends, is justice. He's also going to be subject to torture himself, because also in the Middle East, they don't do interrogations like we do either. If there's anybody out there that he's associated with in the UAE circle, they are probably going to get that out of him very quickly. And if he wants to live to see another day, he's going to go ahead. I did. Yes, honey, I went over the Trump shooter release. That was very early in the show. Nothing really new. Just there was that one segment of what seemed like perhaps another shooter that was trying to leave the scene. So, yes, good news. I wanted to let you guys know that. Also, as I told you yesterday, the former leftist prime minister of Norway, Thorbjorn Jagland, he was arrested and charged with gross corruption over his links to Jeffrey Epstein. We're also learning that 3 of his properties were searched, and he is still currently being interrogated. So although we've already learned about this story, I wanted to see if there was any new details that we may be able to learn from this. Now, you can see here multiple people have shared the emails themselves. He apparently took gifts, travel, and loans from Jeffrey Epstein while he was serving as the prime minister, also while he served as Norway's foreign minister, also while he served as the Secretary General for the Council of Europe. So we have emails showing that he planned both solo and family visits to a variety of Jeffrey Epstein properties, his Paris property, his New York and Palm Beach property, of course, also the pedophile island. The properties that were searched, we don't know what they were looking for, but I would imagine probably electronic communications, any records that might show any deeper connections. Of course, anything related to child trafficking or the abuse of children, that sort of thing. So he was prime minister from 1996 to 1997. He was also the former head of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, and he spent a decade as that Secretary General for the Council of Europe. The most important aspect of this story is that prior to his charging an arrest, he had his diplomatic immunity stripped from him. He was essentially untouchable until the moment we exposed him through these emails that came out, again, as a result of Pam Bondi's DOJ working under the auspices of President Trump. Nobody in history has ever brought down a formerly completely immune public official, former prime minister, in the way that this man just had. Now, he's also he is also facing not only the allegations of gifts and trips to Jeffrey Epstein's properties for him and his family. Also, there are allegations he solicited Epstein's help in obtaining a bank loan in another exchange. We don't know if that ever happened. There are probably many different accounts with his name on them all around the world. And somebody owns the island now, honey. It was given to Karina Shuliak, Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend, as part of his estate, but I don't know that she owns it still. It might have been purchased by somebody else. Let's go ahead and check. I seem to remember that it was sold to somebody else. Who owns Jeffrey Epstein's islands? That's right. Somebody bought them in 2023, and they were supposed to be turned into a resort. Stephen Deckoff. Stephen Deckoff is his name. Let me just search the emails real quick and see if he's in there. He's also a billionaire. He's not listed in the emails, at least not with his full name. And if he is, then perhaps it would be, it would be, I don't know, redacted or something. Howard the Duck says, praying for the children. Yes, absolutely. Paramount. Honey, it's not that shocking. I look up, I see the chat, I see somebody's post, and I always look at yours, okay? I'm telling you, because I see your name. It's very prominent in my chat. All right, here's another one. If you'll remember, Catherine Rumler, Barack Obama's former attorney, one of Jeffrey Epstein's best friends, also a recipient of the CIA's highest award that she couldn't publicly talk about, but she told Jeffrey Epstein about it almost immediately. Also, a woman who, while she was working for Jeffrey Epstein on the various projects that they did while working for Barack Hussein Obama, she also had an affair with Jeffrey Epstein's other attorney. There was an email that I never bothered to go over, but the wife of Jeffrey Epstein's attorney sent Catherine Rumler a letter and basically said, "You destroyed my marriage. I don't want you to ever talk to my husband again." It turns out that she also, in the midst of Spygate, in the midst of Russiagate, on July 9th of 2017, Catherine Rumler was organizing a private meeting between her, Jeffrey Epstein, and none other than John Brennan, Barack Obama's CIA director. Of course, John Brennan was actively engaged in the Spygate, Russiagate scandal at this time, and there was an active cover-up ongoing. I would hope that now we've learned this information, perhaps it might be brought up in John Brennan's grand jury down here in Florida. So that was interesting. Also, Catherine Rumler has now fallen prey to the same fate as many of Jeffrey Epstein's other close associates. She has left her position as Goldman Sachs' top lawyer. She is now resigning from her position as a result of that exposed extensive relationship. She was, of course, the former White House counsel to Barack Hussein Obama. Obama wanted to make her the Attorney freaking General of the United States. She almost accepted it. She was going to be coming in after Eric Holder, but she decided not to take it because she was getting too good of a deal at her $10,000 apartment in New York City. Her employer at that time was paying her more money than the government would. They were also paying $8,000 a month of her rent, and she asked Jeffrey Epstein for his advice. You know, of course, I'm sure Jeffrey would have loved for another one of his close confidants to be the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official of the United States of America. But ultimately, she ended up getting a job somewhere else. Now, she is no longer going to be a lawyer at Goldman Sachs after all of these emails were revealed. She wrote in those emails that she really did love Jeffrey Epstein. She saw him as an older brother, and she seemed to have no problem with his sex crimes. I'm sure you'll remember another email between Epstein and Rumler that I read to you, where Jeffrey Epstein joked about the fact that he had a taste for younger girls. And Kathy Rumler seemed to not have any problem with that at all. She said in a statement that she is stepping down as chief legal officer and general counsel of Goldman Sachs as of June 30th. So she's going to be there for a little while. She's probably got a couple of loose ends she needs to tie up. Until her resignation, she had repeatedly tried to distance herself from those emails and any other correspondence that may have been in the subsequent drops. But as more and more information came out from the federal government and these releases of communications that people like Kathy Rumler probably believed were lost to time because they were tucked away in the same broom closet that Jim Comey and Christopher Wray were using to hide everything else that they were up to, it became obvious that she was no longer going to be able to ignore this. So Although she previously said she would not resign because her relationship with Epstein was nothing untoward, now she is going to be gone. She's been with Goldman Sachs since 2020. She has also publicly called Epstein a monster when speaking about him recently. But when you look at those emails, you can tell that, geez, she really did like this guy. After he was arrested for the second time for child trafficking in 2019 during President Trump's first administration, she called Jeffrey Epstein Uncle Jeffrey in emails. She says, hard to believe there is still an open question about whether men are the inferior gender. This was actually an email that she wrote to him in January of 2015. She writes to Jeffrey Epstein, happy birthday. I hope you enjoy the day with your one true love. He replies and says, they say men usually give a name to their penis as it would be inappropriate to make love to a total stranger. And she says, hard to believe there is still an open question about whether men are the inferior gender. So in her statement, she said, since I joined Goldman Sachs 6 years ago, it has been my privilege to help oversee the firm's legal, reputational, and regulatory matters, to enhance our strong risk management processes, and to ensure that we live up to our core value of integrity in everything we do. My responsibility is to put Goldman Sachs' interests first. Therefore, in the interest of transparency, in the interest of integrity, she is stepping down and she will no longer be. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not Kathy Rumler will be investigated by authorities here in the United States. I feel it's only proper, considering her proximity to Barack Hussein Obama and the fact that Obama literally allowed Jeffrey Epstein's child trafficking operation to continue after he became president. Now, also an interesting note here, the cellmate of Jeffrey Epstein, that Jeffrey, prior to his murder, suicide, whatever it might be, had claimed that his roommate had tried to kill him. His name was Nicholas Tartaglione. He was known as the killer cop because when he was a police officer in New York, he would kill drug dealers and then steal their drugs and steal their money. On July 2nd of 2019, so prior to Jeffrey Epstein's murder, a Bureau of Prisons memo details the fact that Tartaglione had been found with a contraband cell phone. Now, he was on record for killing 4 people, and he also publicly talked about the fact that he hated child predators. What's interesting about the cell phone that was discovered in his cell is that the call history was intact. Jeffrey Epstein arrived at the MCC 4 days after this cell phone was discovered in Tartaglione's cell. So the cell phone is discovered on the 2nd. Epstein arrives on the 6th. July 23rd, Epstein has found in his cell unconscious, having been strangled. He publicly blamed Tartaglione. And you have to wonder, who was it that Tartaglione was in contact with prior to Jeffrey Epstein arriving at the MCC? I would love to see these phone numbers and be able to determine who he was in contact with. I sincerely hope that they did an adequate investigation. And I would also like to know whether or not Tartaglione was able to get another cell phone into his cell. I'm certain that he did, because undoubtedly there was communications that would have taken place after Epstein arrived that would be interesting to dig into. Here's just one more possible piece of evidence for Jeffrey Epstein proof of life. So there is a service called Pix. And Pix is somehow related to financial transactions. It's based in Brazil. And Jeffrey Epstein died in August of 2019. Pix was not created until a year later. And there is an ID associated with Pix, and it's active. And it is also associated with Rural Bank of Alagoas. Now, this Jeffrey Edward Epstein means that there is a bank account that is associated with a Brazilian bank that is using this Pix financial transaction application, and it did not sign up I mean, it wasn't even invented until after he died, 15 months after he died. So somebody is using Jeffrey Epstein's information to move money around in Brazil. Again, this particular account, because it's related to financial transactions, I would imagine that you've got to prove your identity. Like when you open up a bank account, you can't just open up a bank account with the fake name. And you come in with a name like Jeffrey Edward Epstein, I would think they'd probably want to know whether or not that's real. So perhaps this is a fake, a clever fake that someone signed up thinking that it would be fun to do, kind of throw a monkey wrench in the works. Or perhaps it's another indication that Jeffrey Epstein is still out there, still alive, and still spending money. Now, this is a message that was making the rounds yesterday, and a lot of people were saying that it was written by Marco Rubio. I never got a chance to go over it yesterday. But you can see here, Jeffrey Epstein in February of 2016, he gets an email from, it's redacted. The sender is redacted, but it's sent to Jeffrey and one of his assistants, Leslie Groff. And the subject is, I beat Bush. Hi, Jeffrey. I got more votes than Jeb Bush in Iowa, and I only had one congressional district. He had 4. It's so funny to me, totally embarrassing to him. Still like Trump and might be a delegate to the Republican convention. I was in St. Thomas for a couple of days. I did call this island, but never heard back. Went scuba diving off St. Jeff, and it was beautiful. Would be totally funny to me, at least, if you put a big fake shark or statue under the water where the divers go. Love you. Now, people were saying, okay, well, he's running against Jeb Bush. He's talking about perhaps helping Trump. It must be Marco Rubio. People were asking Grok, who is this? And Grok said, it might be Marco Rubio, but it's definitely not Marco Rubio. It is another associate of Jeffrey Epstein. It's a female. Much like many of these other emails that you wouldn't expect, they're coming from a female. So in this particular version of the post, Representative Ro Khanna shares the email and says, I saw this email at the DOJ today. This is a political figure who shouldn't have been redacted. It's a direct violation of Thomas Massie and my Epstein Files Transparency Act. Justice Department should unredact it immediately. Now, Todd Blanche responds and says, you are calling for the release of a victim's personal information. Care to update your tweet? Well, this is interesting because the person who actually wrote this email, as far as I know, has never publicly been identified as a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. That woman who wrote the email is named Gwendolyn Beck. So that sounds to me like we have another instance of somebody who was a female, perhaps friends with Jeffrey Epstein, maybe even slept with him, but is only posthumously claiming to have been a victim of him because they don't like that their name is being brought up in the same sentence. Now, Gwendolyn Beck in 2016 should have known that Jeffrey Epstein was a sex offender. Everybody knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a sex offender. But Gwen has a history of dating sex offenders. She used to date Senator Bob Menendez, Gold Bar Bob. You guys remember him. He's the New Jersey senator who, before being sentenced to prison along with his wife for taking payoffs and acting as a foreign agent for a number of Middle Eastern countries, he had previously been accused of procuring child prostitutes to molest in the Dominican Republic. Gwen was the girlfriend of Bob Menendez. And there's also a connection to Bob Menendez through Representative Ro Khanna. That would be Vikas Khanna, the brother of Ro Khanna. Vikas, the brother of Ro, served as the first assistant U.S. attorney for the state of New York. Now, while Bob Menendez was being tried in 2024 for corruption and the aforementioned crimes, Vikas Khanna testified that Bob Menendez had called him early in 2022. Prosecutors claim this call was an attempt by Bob Menendez to influence a federal bank fraud case involving Fred Daibas, who was one of the people that Bob Menendez was charged along with. He was a businessman who was convicted of bribing Bob Menendez, giving him a gold bar. Vickas testified that at the time that Senator Bob Menendez called him, they had a conversation. There was some small talk about his brother, Ro Khanna, before praising the defense attorney's work on the Daibas case. Now, the conviction of Daibas came as a result of giving those gold bars to Bob Menendez, and that's why he's called Gold Bar Bob. So during cross-examination, the defense attorneys representing Daibas pointed out that Vickas Khanna, along with his wife, had hosted a virtual fundraiser for Bob Menendez in 2020 that raised approximately $60,000. Now, Vickas also acknowledged that his brother Ro was close to Senator Bob Menendez. That's interesting. I've never heard Ro Khanna talk about his relationship with Bob Menendez, the man who had procured child prostitutes to molest in the Dominican Republic, then, of course, beating the charges and only going on to be eventually convicted of corruption. In that 2017 trial that I mentioned, federal prosecutors used Gwendolyn Beck to illustrate a quid pro quo arrangement between Bob Menendez and his benefactor at that time, Dr. Solomon Melgen. Dr. Solomon Melgen was, in fact, convicted of 67 counts of healthcare fraud in 2017. His sentence was commuted in 2021 to time served. That was supported by Bob Menendez. Evidence showed that in May of 2020, Menendez emailed Melgen to request that he fly Gwendolyn Beck, who was his girlfriend at that time, to the Dominican Republic, where Bob Menendez was known to go visit and engage in disgusting behavior with children. He wanted Gwendolyn Beck, his girlfriend, to fly on Melgen's private jet. There was also an FBI agent that testified that Bob Menendez, who was already in the Dominican Republic, arranged for Beck's travel on the doctor's dime as part of the alleged gifts he received in exchange for political favors. So I take issue with the idea that Gwendolyn Beck was ever a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, when after she knew Jeffrey Epstein was a trafficker, she continued to be friends with him and send him friendly emails, and she also dated Bob Menendez. She was dating him after it was exposed that he had been molesting kids in the Dominican Republic. So that sounds like a Gwendolyn Beck problem. That doesn't sound like anybody else's problem. And I think that her name should be unredacted. I wonder if somebody could just get that word to Todd Blanche. Sober in Stilettos. She says, "Hola, Zach and Lisa from Mazatlan, Mexico. Crazy to be here with those minors being kidnapped and then clandestine graves with bodies in places around the area. Say a prayer, I make it home. You rock, Zach and Lisa." I know nothing about that. I did not know minors were arrested and there are graves with bodies in the area. I had not heard that. Yeah, we will definitely pray for you. Hope you're doing okay. Oh my God, Gwendolyn Beck on you. You're so correct. That's hilarious. I just put that together. We watched that show and it kind of got stupid, so we stopped watching it. All right. Now, remember, I told you about Kurt Olsen and his secret job working for President Trump on election fraud, getting information from the CIA. And I had mentioned that Ed Martin had posted this image of him and Kurt Olsen together way back in the fall, right around the time that Kurt Olsen was hired. And it turns out that earlier yesterday, right around 6 a.m., Ed Martin reshared the same picture of him and Kurt Olsen together after the story that we talked about broke. And after everybody in the intel community started freaking out because Kurt Olsen had access to all of the CIA intel about election fraud here in the United States of America. So I wanted to share this once more because I felt that the image hit kind of different after that story came out and people realized that Kurt Olsen has most likely been working on election fraud for a lot longer than anybody could have possibly realized. So keep up the good work. I put out there on Twitter, I said, let Ed and Kurt cook. And let Ed Martin and let Kurt Olsen cook, man, because they are about to. All right, now let us go to the situation. Gosh darn it, with the situation in Arizona, because of course, as I told you several days ago, I had heard that there was going to be something going on in Arizona. Yesterday, Jake Hoffman said he's been in contact with the DHS for the last 72 hours. Stay tuned, America. The corrupt Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and their election department are in full panic. Election director seen in full day sweats today. The Board of Supervisors, past and present, are corrupt to the core. Then, later in the day, Josh Barnett says, well, actually, this was this morning. First of all, I got to show you this one. So, obviously, the word got around to Maricopa County, and yesterday at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, which would have been 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors called an emergency meeting, special notice of an emergency meeting of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. That was held yesterday. At this emergency meeting, they will consider information and or legal advice relating to board authority and responsibilities regarding election administration. The emergency is due to the need to receive legal advice regarding new information received the morning of February 12th regarding direction from the board regarding election administration. Now, the meeting minutes are not public, so I don't know what happened in that meeting, but I tend to believe that this is directly related to the fact that DHS reached out to them and said, we are coming and you're going to have to get your shit together. So this morning, DHS rolled in. Josh Barnett here actually tags Tulsi Gabbard. I did not see Tulsi Gabbard anywhere, but it would not surprise me if Tulsi Gabbard was on site doing some type of investigation. Now, he said, I was told it's not a raid, but they are here. Now, it wasn't a raid, and it ended up being some type of a press conference with Kristi Noem, essentially suggesting that the SAVE Act needs to be passed. However, some very interesting things happened while they were there. First of all, the press conference itself was held inside of a secure facility, and the press was picked up by a bus and then taken to this secret facility for the in-person announcement with Kristi Noem. So this meeting took place somewhere in Phoenix, and the conversation revolved entirely around election security because the same type of investigation that is now happening in Fulton County is likely about to start in Maricopa County as well. Now, President Trump already had signed that executive order last March where he said the Department of Homeland Security, in coordination with the DOJ administrator, shall review each state's publicly available voter registration list and available records concerning voter list maintenance activities as required by 52 U.S.C. 20507, alongside federal immigration databases and state records requested, including through subpoena, where necessary and authorized by law for consistency with federal requirements. Now, the current Arizona State Attorney General Chris Mays and Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, who used to be in Maricopa County, have up until this point pushed back against the federal government's attempts to secure the elections in Arizona, and they've already filed a lawsuit against the administration last April. But Maricopa County was the center of a lot of our attention after the 2020 election was stolen, after the 2022 election was stolen. Remember, you had 60% of voting machines fail on election day, primarily happening in Republican-heavy areas. There were a host of other irregularities that allowed Democrats to secure positions statewide. So the visit obviously spooked the members of the current Board of Supervisors and the past Board of Supervisors, as well as members of the Arizona state government, because there was, of course, that FBI raid at Fulton County. And John Solomon had said that there will be another Georgia-like event in Arizona, like what happened in Fulton County. Keep an eye on Arizona, he said. She's down there for a reason, and I think my reporting suggests that there will be some sort of important election integrity event tomorrow. She's down there for a reason, and I think my reporting suggests that there will be an important event tomorrow in Maricopa County that'll be the second state after Georgia to have that same type of treatment. Now, let's go ahead and take a listen to John Solomon. And I just need to wait for this commercial to go through.
Nothing visible.
I've been telling you all week, keep an eye on Arizona. Keep an eye on Arizona. I think there's a Georgia-like event in Arizona, like what happened in Fulton County. I think tomorrow is a likely day. So I just want to put that on your calendar. Keep an eye tomorrow. I see Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem going down there. Now, why is that important? The Homeland Security Department oversees the election machines and election counting capabilities. CISA and the Homeland Security Department deal with that. The FBI Justice Department deal with criminal violations. So
think about it like this. The FBI went straight to a search warrant using the probable cause affidavit detailing a series of crimes that were likely committed. The situation in Arizona was a little bit more clandestine and overt. The election machines themselves failed. And that right there, as John Solomon said, is under the direct purview of the Department of Homeland Security. So the Department of Homeland Security, unlike the FBI, would have the power to go down there and say, we just want to take a look at your election machines. Once they take a look at the election machines, if they find anything that is criminal, well, then that would be the point at which the FBI would step in and we would see a direct raid. Perhaps election machines were confiscated while Kristi Noem was there. Perhaps that's what Tulsi Gabbard was doing while Kristi Noem was giving the press conference.
She's down there for a reason, and I think my reporting suggests that there will be some sort of important election integrity event tomorrow, Maricopa County in Arizona. That'll be the second state after Georgia to have that sort of treatment. So put it on your calendar, get it ready, and we'll have you covered here at Real America's Voice. And
all right, so I'm going to see. This mentions the emergency meeting, but they don't have anything specific. The Arizona Central reported that her visit comes at a time when the U.S. Department of Justice is suing Arizona for voter registration and election records that the Arizona Secretary of State says it can't legally hand over. Arizona is among those 23 states sued by the federal government over the voter data, and according to the Justice Department, they want to ensure voter rolls are accurate across the country. Totally legitimate. Opponents in the states that are suing to not hand it over have refused to cooperate, saying that the Department of Justice is seeking information to bolster President Donald Trump's unfounded claims of the election being stolen in 2020 and expressed worry about how the personal information will be used in the future. Well, guess what? The only way we can truly determine what happened in 2020 is for a fair, honest, and accurate investigation to be undergone. And in order to do that, these states will have to hand over that information. And on top of that, the only way to make sure that the voter rolls are clean is to also hand over that information so that we can go ahead and take a look and determine exactly what the hell is going on. Now, before we watch a clip from that press conference from earlier today, one more special message from our friends on Rumble. You guys, if you still have not tried 1775 coffee yet, they do still have some of those starter kits available. In those starter kits, you're going to get their bold, dark roast that hits nice and hard, their smooth medium roast goes down a treat, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee that gives you clean energy and laser focus without the crash. It's all made from the highest quality beans available, single origin, small batch, toxin and mold free. Plus, you're also going to get some free goodies, a gold spoon clip, a strong frother, and a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for $99. This is for the people who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder if it's actually worth it. It truly is, but the only way you can find out is by going to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab that starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Now, you can use that QR code on screen if you're on Rumble or any of the platforms where you can see that, or you can just head to the website. Thank you very much to the good folks at Rumble. All right, now let's take a look at Kristi Noem's presser from earlier today. and we can see her commenting on why this is so important that we deal with this right now. Largely because we know that election crimes have been committed. And Arizona being a border state, Arizona also being a state that has been fairly lackadaisical with regard to their cleaning of the voter rolls, or even at a minimum, checking to make sure that illegals are not registered to vote in their state. We need to take a look. So hand it over.
It's common sense that our elections should belong to the American people, that they should be the ones who get to vote, whose votes are counted, that they get one vote, not more, not less. It's common sense to make sure that foreign nationals don't vote in our elections, don't elect our leaders, and have a say in how our...
Yes, David, I can confirm Nevada is also on that list.
Our country runs. They don't and should not be allowed to be trampling on the voice of the American people, and will no longer allow American citizens to be disenfranchised, to have their voices suppressed by criminals, by hostile foreign actors, and by illegal aliens that shouldn't be here in this country. It's a fact that non-citizens have been voting in our elections. They've been registered and they have voted from state to state. For example, one of the most recent individuals that we've talked about is Ian Andre Roberts. He was an illegal alien from Guyana that was arrested by ICE while serving in Des Moines, Iowa as the school district superintendent. Perhaps you remember hearing about that arrest. Despite him being here illegally in this country, he was registered to vote in Maryland. He had a long rap sheet also of criminal charges, including narcotics possession, second and third degree possession of a weapon, and criminal possession of a forgery instrument. In Coldwater, Kansas, we had an illegal alien that was able to vote and was even elected as a mayor. He was charged by the Kansas Attorney General last fall for voting without being qualified and to election perjury charges, thanks to assistance from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency. As it stands, current guidelines for the National Voter Registration Act effectively stop states from going forward and checking citizenship during registration. The Save America Act would fix this. It would make sure that we close those loopholes and that we ensure in American elections only Americans vote.
All right. So someone in the chat had mentioned that Republicans were disqualified in Arizona. They were in a number of different races. It's not that the Secretary of State singled them out and said, you can't run because you're a Republican. It's quite literally a failure of the Arizona GOP in several key races. The qualifications that must be met to get your name on the ballot were not qualified. And that was a failure of not only the candidates, but more importantly, by the state party of Arizona. Huge F up, huge F up. But yeah, definitely disheartening. All right. Now, in addition to Kristi Noem's efforts to get a look at that election material in Arizona, another state that I am certain is going to be on this list for investigations is, of course, Pennsylvania. Now, that should then not surprise you that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro has just come out in opposition of voter ID or even proving you're a citizen to cast a ballot in federal elections.
The SAVE Act is designed to nationalize our elections. That's why I am vehemently opposed to it. The idea that we would turn over our elections to Donald Trump, given his track record of election denialism, given his track record of taking me to court 43 different times during the 2020 election to try and overturn the will of the people here in Pennsylvania. By the way, he went 0-43, I went 43-0, and we had a free and fair, safe and secure election. The last person who should be running our elections in the United States is Donald Trump. I don't think this will ever reach his desk, just given the dynamic.
Hold on. I misspoke when I said Arizona. It's New Mexico, where several candidates were disqualified.
Which is a good thing. And that is because elections are run by the states and by our counties. It's right there in our Constitution. And what we have seen in Pennsylvania is remarkable work from Republican and Democratic clerks of elections in all 67 counties. Remarkable work from my Secretary of State, Al Schmidt, who, by the way, is a Republican, because we believe the administration of elections should be nonpartisan. And we're going to keep it that way. And we're going to continue to respect the will of the people here in Pennsylvania. And we are not going to turn our elections over to Donald Trump.
this would not be turning over elections to Donald Trump. It is a fair requirement to ensure that those who are casting ballots in elections are citizens of the United States of America. If you can't prove, at a minimum, your identity to cast a ballot, which is a necessity that must happen if you are going to legally cast a ballot, then your elections are not secure. You cannot trust them. And in order to make sure, the simplest way to do that is to show your ID, verifying your citizenship. The only reason Josh Shapiro and others like him don't want this to happen is because they are benefiting from the fact that nobody is checking. Now, Anna Paulina Luna has apparently put Lisa Murkowski on blast. Lisa Murkowski is apparently big mad about the fact that Republicans and America Firsters don't like her. Also that, of course, Donald Trump doesn't like her. She is, in my opinion, a sort of a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's not really conservative. She's not even a Republican in any true sense of the word. But Anna Paulina Luna wrote this on X. I'm sorry, Murkowski first wrote on X. When Democrats attempted to advance sweeping election reform legislation in 2021, Republicans were unanimous in opposition because it would have federalized elections, something we have long opposed. Now I'm seeing proposals such as the SAVE Act and MEGA that would effectively do just that. Once again, I do not support these efforts. Not only does the U.S. Constitution clearly provide states the authority to regulate the times, place, and manner of holding federal elections, but one-size-fits-all mandates from D.C. seldom work in places like Alaska. Nobody is trying to change any of those things, and she knows this. It's totally disingenuous. Election day is fast approaching. Imposing new federal requirements now, when states are deep into their preparations, would negatively impact election integrity by forcing election officials to scramble to adhere to new policies, likely without the necessary resources. Ensuring public trust in our elections is at the core of our democracy. This isn't a democracy, it's a republic. But federal outreach is not how we achieve this. The problem with this statement, again, is that not only is she being dishonest, but she's also failing to mention that she did actually vote for the Democrat Party's attempt to pass this open elections legislation back in 2021 and remove any safeguards that are already in place for those national elections. She was the only Republican to do so. So she just lied in multiple ways in her tweet. Muffin, watch out, honey. So Anna Paulina Luna wrote this. She just left a screenshot of the community note that was added to Lisa Murkowski's tweet. Senator Murkowski voted to advance the 2021 voter reforms she references here. She was the only Republican to do so. Just going to leave this here, Lisa. So Lisa Murkowski is totally dishonest. I hope that she leaves the Republican Party so that somebody else can run against her, because she is terrible. The only reason she's there is because of her name. Now, we do have good news with regard to getting closer to having the SAVE Act passed. Just one step forward in ensuring that elections are safe and secure here in the United States. It now has 49 co-sponsors. We are one vote away from that 50-vote threshold with the standing filibuster, which would allow this to pass without having to get to the 60-vote threshold. So the U.S. House of Representatives, as we told you yesterday, has passed once again the SAVE Act 28-213. Henry Cuellar, whom President Trump had pardoned after he was charged during the Biden administration, was the single Democrat to vote with the Republicans. And John Thune has also now cast his support by co-sponsoring in the Senate. Who was the person who added Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska? He is now the 49th. So who else is left? I think maybe, who is it? Collins. I think Collins might be the last one who needs to get on board with this. Yeah, okay, so Murkowski has not co-sponsored. Mitch McConnell, I think he's still in the hospital. Susan Collins, and then Tom Tillis. Man, any four of these is going to be real tough to have them get on board with this. I don't know if any of them will, but is John what's his name from Pennsylvania? John Fetterman. Did John Fetterman sign on as a co-sponsor? Hang on, let's see. Has Fetterman co-sponsored the SAVE Act? John Fetterman breaks with Democrats on voter ID, but he still opposes the SAVE Act? Jeez, oh, Pete's. So Fetterman has deviated. He said he did not oppose voter ID, but he would not vote for the legislation. He's retarded. It's not Jim Crow 2.0. What a dumbass. Okay. Well, it may not be necessary. G. Fontes says the only female of the 2016 Republican primary stage was Carly Fiorina. So you're assuming that the person who sent that email was running in the Republican primary for president. She was running for a different office. I actually went through and found the exact number of votes. It is definitely Gwendolyn Beck. I think Epstein is alive, Serter says. You can't tell me that he didn't have a dead man switch set up out there with incriminating evidence in case he was turned on. He's alive, but where he is a mystery. I would agree with you. All right. Now, President Trump announced on Truth Social, or shortly before we went live, that the SAVE Act, or at least voter ID, will be federally mandated for the 2026 midterms, whether or not the Senate can get their shit together. He said the Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID or citizenship. The reason is very simple. They want to continue to cheat in elections. This was not what our founders desired. I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on this subject and will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. There will be voter ID for midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. Also, the people of our country are insisting on citizenship, no mail-in ballots, with exceptions for military, disability, illness, or travel. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. So, fairly succinct and easy to understand commentary from President Trump. We will have voter ID. President Trump has allegedly come up with some novel legal theory which will make it possible for this to be federally mandated. So regardless of whether or not the SAVE Act makes its way through the Senate after all of this wrangling, it looks like we're going to be okay. I love President Trump. The man is incredible. All right. Now, yesterday, it was announced that a series of district judges for the Northern District of New York had chosen Donald T. Kinsella to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of New York. So on Wednesday, Kinsella was sworn in, and by the end of the day on Wednesday, he was fired by Todd Blanche. Pursuant to 28 U.S. Code 546D, the Board of Judges for the Northern District of New York appointed Donald T. Kinsella as the United States Attorney for the Northern District of New York. Donald T. Kinsella, they said, has more than 50 years of experience in complex criminal and civil litigation. Mr. Kinsella prosecuted or defended several high-profile federal and state criminal cases in New York. Mr. Kinsella served as a United Assistant U.S. Attorney from 89 until 98 when he was promoted to the Criminal Chief of the Office of the United States Attorney for the Northern District of New York. He has held this position until 2002 when he retired from federal service. Mr. Kinsella is a past president of the Federal Court Bar Association of the Northern District of New York, a former member of the Executive Committee of the Criminal Justice Section for the New York State Bar Association, and was a member of the Practitioners Advisory Committee of the United States Sentencing Commission. He attended Colgate University. He received a bachelor's degree from Syracuse. He earned his JD and Master of Law from Boston University School of Law. He was sworn in as the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of New York in a private ceremony on February 11th, 2026. So Todd Blanche shared this announcement, and he said, judges don't pick U.S. attorneys. POTUS does. See Article 2 of our Constitution. You are fired, Donald Kinsella. So I don't know who is going to be the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of New York, but it's not Donald T. Kinsella. So we'll get an update on that. Bendix says Alpha has the green dildo. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. All right. Let me say thank you to some peeps over here on Pilled. Darla, happy Valentine's Day to you and Zach, you Zach and Lisa. Thank you for that, Darla. Moon Baby says, I'm here for the news. Thank you, RP. Filter Dog, big plans for Valentine's Day, probably going to dinner. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. Good Dog 45, thank you for the can. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. L.A. Martinez says the New Mexican is the Santa Fe newspaper. Okay. Filter Dog says Cuba refinery on fire. Okay. I wonder if that is part of the Cuban capitulation plan. That's not the entire thing. Hold on. Copy. Okay. Massive fire erupts at one of Cuba's largest oil refineries, Nico Lopez in Havana. There is, of course, a fuel shortage because we have embargoed fuel to Cuba.
Mira pa eso.
Ay, caramba.
Algo grande pasó en la refinería. No, está cogiendo una fuerza terrible.
That's a bummer. Let's see. Also, thank you to Sean Joe for the cookie. The floor is yours says, I want to thank you so much for that blitzkrieg. I really need a good blitzing every day. Glad to be of service, my friend. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 more cookies. Dixie, thank you for the can. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 more cookies. Darla says the mainstream media is not reporting on election fraud. Epstein or the Clintons is suspicious. Personally, I don't find it that suspicious. I think that they don't want to report on anything that is going to vindicate any of the claims that we or the president have made in the last several years. But you continue, the Clinton scrubber has his mother-in-law dominating the news. Look under Hillary's bed. I smell PSYOP. So remember, Bill and Hillary Clinton had said not that long ago that they were kind of in poor health. That was one of the reasons they didn't want to come in and do the under oath depositions. And I showed a short video of her. Actually, I might have showed it with Brad on Altered State, but Hillary is in Munich right now for the Munich Security Conference, and she looks awful. So with her deposition scheduled for February 26th, there is a distinct possibility her health may decline rapidly between now and then. And remember, there was a post, which I want to say has a Delta soon. Let me see. Let me go for today's deltas. It might not be. No. So today's deltas have nothing to do with it. Let me look tomorrow. No, there's plenty of them, but oh my gosh. Tomorrow is the delta of when I got queued. That's awesome. I just realized that. That's hilarious. You guys want to see? I was in a bunch of other ones, but this is the only one where like an actual tweet of mine was shared. All right, so that's crazy. I completely forgot. All right, so I shared this on February 14th. President Trump calls for Great Awakening and included the link to the video on YouTube. And then I was retweeted by conservative Karen, Noem Woke AF, and she says, well, there you go, Great Awakening QAnon MAGA. And then Q shared that and didn't say anything, but left a link to her post. And then he posted it again, including the link to my post, so that both of us were included in there, which was pretty sweet. Very nice. Thank you very much. And I'm looking for the other post right now. Don't know where it is. Anyways, but that was pretty sweet. That was very cool. Oh, you know what? Where is it? I don't know where it is. Anyways, that was a cool day. I was in a meeting and I get out and my phone is blowing up and there you go. And everybody was like, Zach, you got queued. Thought it was so cool. All right. All right. So we also have learned that in reference to January 6th, the FBI was planning for the events of January 6th 6 months in advance. Now, We know about this because Kash Patel has just produced a previously unseen memo over to Congress. Again, he claims that he just found it recently, but what it proves is that they were planning to plant informants in the crowd because they wanted mass arrests of conservatives. They knew that the election was going to be rigged. They knew that if they were to set up a situation where a January 6th type event would take place, they could blame conservatives. They could also use it to ensure that President Trump wouldn't have any support in Congress for a contestation of the vote. So what they did was a tabletop exercise that they ran in Boston in August of 2020, 5 months before January 6th actually occurred. So these memos, Kash Patel turned over to Congress. He just found them recently at the request of Chairman Barry Loudermilk. Remember, Loudermilk is in charge of the January 6th investigation that's currently taking place in the House. Not much has happened. I don't have a lot of high hopes for it. But it showed that the FBI knew there was a very strong possibility of a contested election, and they devised a series of strategies to ensure that they would get the results that they had. Take a listen.
Let me get this correct. A year before January 6th, the FBI knew there might be some consternation about the election, given everything, given the Democrats already wargaming it. They thought this thing through, and they actually had plans specifically for January 6th, sir?
Yeah, they did. They had a tabletop exercise that they ran in Boston in August of 2020, 5 months before January 6th occurred. The memos, which Kash Patel just turned over to Congress, he just found them recently, turned them over to Congress at the request of Chairman Barry Loudermilk, who's in charge of the J6 investigation now in the House, show that the FBI knew there was a strong possibility of a hanging election or a contested election, that both sides appeared to be agitated and likely could likely carry out that agitation to the point of violence. And they even devised very specific strategies. And one of them is to embed informants inside the groups where the most likely political violence or political agitation might occur. That is something that the FBI did. We had 24 informants on the ground on the morning of January 6th. The second thing they recommended was mass prosecutions, even for the most minor of crimes. Exactly what the FBI did after January 6th. Now, there are two big things about that strategy. It's pretty clear the strategy was hatched months before, and that's what they carried out. It's not the strategy they used for the political violence that BLM and the far left conducted all throughout the summer and fall of 2020. So a very clear double standard. The second thing is they did embed informants in a lot of groups, including left and right groups, Antifa and right-wing groups, and they got lots of intelligence suggesting a bad episode would occur. We now know from Chairman Barry Loudermilk that while those warnings were very strong from the informants, the preparations and the warnings from the FBI to their brethren in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. did not exist. They didn't pass on the warnings from the informants. So two failed examples of the Chris Wray era of the FBI. Knowing something was going to happen, implementing a strategy that hurt conservatives but not liberals, and not warning the people who could actually prevent the violence from occurring. That is the legacy of the Chris Wray FBI. It's what we now have out in open. These documents are now out there for everybody to see. Pretty stunning, though maybe not so stunning given what we've learned about the FBI.
Is there any part of this that shows that they briefed, that Bill Barr and Chris Wray briefed the President of the United States, or briefed his staff, or briefed senior people at the White House after the tabletop exercise and after they came up with a plan of how to get informants? Is there any?
Oh, I just see Maggie Bunn says Zach Collins is yes now to the SAVE Act. Okay, great. So we've hit 50. That's good news. I don't know if they're going to vote on it today. Probably not, but maybe they can get it over the weekend.
Evidence at all?
Thank you, Maggie.
That people that should have known about this were actually informed about it?
No, it doesn't look like the Attorney General knew, Bill Barr, or the brass, at least not as of now. There's no documentation showing that. There's no mention of it in the documents even suggesting that we alert the Attorney General or the Homeland Security Department or the Capitol Police or the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police. So it looks like
Of course, they didn't alert anybody because this was a rogue operation that was ongoing for some time. It was done on purpose. They got exactly what they wanted out of January 6th. All right, now we're going to jump to some news regarding immigration. Good news if you are a small business owner. Now, one of the disturbing things that we discovered when we started diving into the all of this money that was coming out of the federal government, a lot of it was going to foreign business owners who would come here. They would get money from the Small Business Association as a loan. They would open a gas station or a business or something like that, and then they would abuse the H-1B visa system to bring in their friends and relatives from their home country. A lot of times, people were looking and seeing that there were just a tremendous amount of Indian business owners who were coming here. They weren't citizens. They were getting all of this money from the government, and it left precious little resources for American business innovators. Well, President Trump has just banned the Small Business Administration from giving loans to anyone other than United States citizens. This will take effect on March 1st.
Small business owners.
And it's obviously a major, major step forward in the right direction.
Can no longer get SBA loans unless all of the owners are U.S. citizens. That means that if any of the owners are green card holders, they can no longer get SBA loans. And that's a major change, especially for banks here in the Houston area. I just met with a small banker today, and their loan application numbers are expected to drop pretty significantly. This goes into effect in March. Small business.
So let me tell you how else this is going to be good. Considering how much business is coming from these foreign sources, that means that banks are no longer going to be able to depend on all of this federal money coming in so that they can make money off of these programs. It means that in order to stay competitive, they're going to need to start making money more available to American business owners. And it also means that there are going to be far more opportunities for money to be given to someone like you and I who might be hoping to start a business and do it in the right way. This is a tremendous, tremendous piece of news. And this is on top of all of that money that the SBA is currently in the process of clawing back from places like Minnesota, California. Lots of different fraudulent businesses were began because there was no checks or balances. Nobody was bothering to see if these businesses were being operated properly. Beyond the Small Business Association announcement, we also have a case of severe disturbed activity amongst a white liberal female in a, what is this? This is in Kansas City, Missouri. So she apparently heard a rumor that this business, this building, this empty building, was going to be turned into a future ICE detention center. And she was caught on tape committing an act of arson, or perhaps terrorism, you might say, in Kansas City, Missouri, as she tried to set this building on fire. She threw a Molotov cocktail into the warehouse. Then she lit a match, set it on fire, and then she appears to have a bottle of lighter fluid or something like that. Now, the true irony of this is that this building is not actually going to be turned into an ICE facility. I guess there was a deal, and then they decided that they were not going to sell it to the government. So she basically just set a local business owner's building on fire for no reason and potentially put herself in federal prison for a decade or more. Take a look. So she throws the Molotov, sets it on fire. I personally was hoping that she was going to accidentally set herself on fire, but that didn't happen. I've got a series of white liberal Karen videos that we're going to watch next. It's just a little palate cleanser in the midst of all of this craziness. So yeah, this woman basically set this building on fire for no reason. She did it in full view of whoever this is that is filming her. Disturbed behavior. All right, we also have this gem of an interaction. This takes place, I believe, in Washington. It's not ICE, but it is a police officer, and he's parked outside of Seven Oaks Elementary School. minding his own business, and this disturbed white liberal Karen walks up and has a strange interaction with him.
What are you doing?
What am I doing here?
Why are you here?
I was just doing a collision report, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you guys going to be here much longer?
Until I'm done doing my job.
Because one of the teachers, when I dropped off over there, said y'all been circling since about 8.
Okay. Well, I'm just doing my job, so the quicker I do
Your
my
job
job...
at the elementary school since about 8 a.m.?
I wasn't here at
There was
8
a
a.m.
collision here at the elementary school?
Well, you have a good day. I'm going to continue to do my
You
job.
work for us, and you're scaring these families.
Okay. Well,
You
I'm
should
gonna
probably
continue
go
to
do
my
your job where your job lives.
Okay,
Because I don't see that it needs to be right here all morning.
Okay. I'm going to explain something.
Mm-hmm.
The person that I was just working with left approximately 5 minutes ago. This was a collision report for them. I'm doing my job. I gave them all their information.
Can you maybe, like for a second, acknowledge that you could be a really upsetting sight for people right now?
Yes, ma'am, I'm just doing my job.
I get it.
So-
I get it. But like for us to be able to collaborate with y'all at all going forward, you're going to have to show us some humanity. You're going to have to show us that you understand the circumstances and the feelings that you evoke. Because like, it would be so rad to feel like you're here for us. It would be so rad to feel like you guys get it and understand that you are actually the defending line between us and the fucking fascism. But until like that's overt, that's overt that you're part of our community,
well, ma'am,
then I don't think you should be lingering
with
here.
absolutely all due respect, I'm not going to continue to go back and forth. I'm going to try to finish my job as fast as possible. Okay? Keep in mind that you are cussing. We are in front of a school. So please just keep that in mind, okay?
I'll give you that. That's fair.
Okay, so the quicker I get this done, I can leave, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not
just
really
please
not trying to bother
really
you,
be
okay?
thinking about these kids and these moms.
Look, I get it, ma'am.
You know what moms are going through right now, right?
I do understand that, but let me just please, I'll get this out of the way and I'll be out of everyone's hair,
I sure
okay?
would appreciate that.
Yep. You have a good rest of your day,
You
okay?
too.
Well, if those moms and those kids are having interactions with this woman, I absolutely understand. Things are not going well in Washington. Again, the real irony here is that this officer had nothing to do with any ICE operations. He wasn't there to arrest anyone at the school. He wasn't harassing anyone. He literally was involved in a collision, writing the report, saying what happened, helping someone in the community so that they could likely use that report to make a claim to their insurance. This woman extended that stay, berated him, virtue signaled about the apparent stress and heartache that kids at this school are going through. If you're not an illegal alien, then you've got nothing to worry about. Of course, people like her likely believe that ICE or police are just going to show up and open fire for no reason at all because they don't have the ability to process logical conclusions from their own actions. And if you are an illegal alien, you're breaking the law, then you don't have any right to be here, and the authorities have the right to remove you. Your due process is complete. Now, take a look at this one. Another incredible interaction with a white liberal woman. Her name is Olivia Jensen. This is coming from her TikTok account. She was following and impeding ICE agents as they were attempting to arrest a child sex predator who also happens to be a murderer.
This isn't where I live. That's fine, but this isn't where I live.
Do your parents still pay all your bills?
No.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
If my parents paid all my bills?
We just want to make sure you got home.
This isn't where I live.
It's okay, Olivia. We appreciate it.
You can go talk to them.
Well,
this isn't where I live.
So if this is not where your vehicle's registered, you might want to look that up with their state.
It is, buddy. My address is correct on my ID and where my car is registered.
Okay.
Good try, though.
All right. Thanks, Olivia.
Do you feel strong or what?
We're good. Have a great day, okay?
I'll keep following you, okay?
Oh, no, she doesn't care. It's all right. No, come on. She doesn't care? She doesn't care. They never do.
Now, wait for it. The virtue signaling white liberal in her natural habitat is about to commit an act of racial targeting.
How does it feel to be a race traitor?
You know, we were trying to get a child molester, right?
No, you weren't.
Yes, we were.
How would you know?
Because it was a woman you talked to.
His wife.
And then his plate came back as murder.
I just want to say, calling someone a race traitor.
But you guys don't care.
I hope you realize that is the most racist thing you can say as a white woman.
Of course,
and
it is.
So you know, this isn't a good look for you.
Handset, thank you so much for gifting those 5 subscriptions to viewers over there on Rumble. Really appreciate you, bud.
You think I care about my look?
No, trust me.
When you guys
it is evident by how you look, you don't care. We get that, trust me. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying this, trying to be a social warrior. If you actually cared, you probably would care about the child who got raped and also the person who got murdered by the person that we were looking for. But see, you don't care.
No, I don't care because you guys try.
And she says it out loud. I don't care. I don't care about the child who was raped or the person who was murdered. All she cares about is the social credit points that she's going to get from her friends and neighbors in the Antifa left-wing radical community after she posts this on TikTok. Look, she got, at the time of this recording, 6,268 likes. They are absolutely insane.
You just try to detain legal immigrants. None of you actually give a shit.
Really?
If you were here to get illegal, violent immigrants off the street, that would be fine. That's not what you're doing.
It's not.
And how would you know? You ignorant slut. How would you know? You have no idea. Maggie says, check out Nick Sorter post of interview of Collins. They watered down the SAVE Act for her. Oh, God.
No, hold on. It's okay. She
You
said
need to
it's
back
not.
up.
It's not.
It's not what you're doing.
Just so you know, if you were to spray that, you would be arrested.
That's fine.
Okay.
Don't come close to me.
We're going to tell you this. Stop following us.
No, it's not illegal.
So you don't want us to come close to you, but you keep riding our tail.
I have given you plenty of distance the entire time.
Okay. Just so you know, if you do impede, I want you to hear this.
Me following you is not impeding. I'm well aware of my rights, buddy.
If you impede, you will be arrested.
I have not impeded.
I'm just letting you know.
What are you looking for, you fucking weirdo?
She put that OC in spray?
Yeah, she did. But
what are you looking for, you fucking weirdo?
I love that they called her Olivia, too. Like, guess what? We already know who you are. We've already got you on the list. Yes, you are a domestic terrorist. Now, here is another interaction. This took place in California. And this one I saved for nearly last because it's probably one of the most satisfying. This woman, much like Olivia, thinks that the laws don't apply to her. She showed up to the ICE facility in Los Angeles and she parked her vehicle in front of the exit gate so that the members of the CBP and ICE and also police from DHS or any of the locals that were working with this operation would be unable to leave the facility.
You guys look fucking ridiculous coming out here all armored up like this to fucking tell someone to move their car.
Badge number 1445.
Yep.
Yep.
It's right here.
All right. K9 unit. Yep. 945. Badge number 16546.
That one.
Badge number 262. Badge number. You can't detain.
What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
I love it when they impede, when they refuse to leave or refuse to comply, and then they get arrested, and they say, you can't arrest me. You can't arrest me. Because obviously they can. And they are. I mean, they're in the process of arresting you right now. Again, you ignorant slut.
What's wrong with you guys?
You cannot detain. You cannot detain. You are not allowed. You are allowed.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
You are not.
Don't touch me.
They picked her up by all four.
You are not allowed to detain me. You are not allowed to detain me.
Let's see how that works out for you, because they're definitely allowed to detain you.
Yeah, you guys just escalate. She was about to fucking move. You guys are ridiculous.
I wish they didn't have to blur it out.
Stop pulling her clothes off! Stop pulling her clothes off!
Her tatas are hanging out.
You guys are handling my rights. I am not in custody. I am not.
No, this is not Olivia. This is a different interaction. I can understand how you might think it would be the same interaction because these people all suffer from the same unique strain of brain worms. It doesn't matter which state they're in. They're all cut from the exact same cloth.
You guys are pulling your fucking clothes off. sexual assault is happening right now. You guys are sexually assaulting this woman.
Hey, do you want me to move your car for you?
Yeah,
move it up for you.
Not do this.
You want me to move your car for you?
Civil rights. You are obstructing my civil rights. You are obstructing my civil rights. You are not able to handle her any further. You will be reported.
Yeah,
You are
move
not
the
allowed
car.
to handle her any further. You will be reported. My civil rights.
She's a thickin' too, so it's taken 4 of them to even get her wrists to connect in the back.
You are obstructing. You're not here.
do not brutalize her. She's not resisting.
You are obstructing my civil. You are obstructing my civil rights. Ah!
You guys are all pigs. You know that? You guys are all fucking pigs. You guys are all fucking pigs.
That guy's laughing. Oh, man.
This is a bad look for you guys. If anyone is in charge here, you guys should be de-escalating this shit. Look at what they're doing to her. Unbelievable. Yeah, try to block the...
You are obstructing my civil rights.
These are the kind of kids who never got their ass beat when they were kids, either at school or their parents never bothered to discipline them. You know, there comes a point where you need to teach a child that just because they scream or they demand that they're not going to get what they want, punishment serves a purpose. I'm not saying that you need to beat your children, but I'll tell you what, when I was little, it took me getting spanked on the ass one time to recognize that there were consequences for my actions.
You are not allowed to do this. You are not allowed. You stole my vehicle.
Oh, did her whole hoodie come off?
Fucking ridiculous. Got all scared because LAPD disappeared, huh? LAPD left and...
Ladies, please do not block the area. That's all we have.
She pulled over to ask a question. She's not with us. Don't tell us it wasn't our car.
Or to the right, that's
it
all.
wasn't our fucking car. It was not our car.
Oh, yeah. Every single one of these women have bird hands. You know it. You know, you can just hear the tone in their voice, and you know that you can't do this. Like, guess what, bitch? Yes, we can, and we're going to. You can't park in front of the exit of a federal facility, all right? And if you do, this is what's going to happen to you.
You're not on your fucking property. This is our property. We pay these taxes. Fuck you.
I doubt she's paying any taxes.
Fuck you. Get lost. Get lost.
You're all in the wrong. Get ready for your lawsuit, bitches.
Ain't nobody getting sued. Anyways, Lee Walden says, make ball gags great again. Hey, would you blow me too? Says, how much social credit do I get for minding my own damn business today? Well, you are amongst friends. So you're definitely on the social credit high end with us. Okay, now, this is in the UK, but I just wanted to show you that the phenomenon of know-it-all white broads is a universal, no matter what nation you're in. This is non-political, but it does show the same level of stupidity, lack of understanding, and simply believing that you are right, regardless of what the actual circumstances of the situation are.
My car's literally broken down.
You shouldn't really be here. You'll need to move.
But I can't move the car.
My boyfriend's going to be coming any minute.
What's the problem? But buddy, my car is broken down. I'm just saying.
Talking rubbish.
There's a warning light, son. Yeah, no, it's not starting. No, it's not. It's not.
Just press the button, see if it starts.
Look.
Don't encourage him.
It's broken down.
He's talking rubbish, Alan. He's talking rubbish. He's parked outside the house, Alan.
It's not parked, it's broken down.
You find this all amusing, are you?
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
You're ganging up on me now.
No, we're not.
Is it because I'm a...
Alan, do you remember me? I do. Got your car fixed then. Where is she now? She had to go. After that little incident with you, she was a nightmare. How are you now? I'm fine. Absolutely fine now. Much better. I can do what I like. And thanks for what you did for me.
My car.
Thank you for ending my relationship with this clear-cut Karen case. Got to get rid of them. Got to get away from them. Okay, so now we are going to watch that video from Maggie about Susan Collins. It would appear that we've actually got 51 votes now in the Senate.
Now that the Save America Act has passed the House, can we count on you to support it in the Senate?
I'm looking at it. The House made some significant changes. For example, you would not have to prove citizenship every time you vote. That's a good change. Makes sense to have a requirement the first time when you register, but not every time. I've long supported voter ID. There's some issues on what are federal and what are state. So I'm still this is a work in progress, but I've got to go to the Health Committee.
Thank you. Now that the Save.
All right, so that interview was before she announced that she was going to be backing the Save America Act. So I don't know that if they would have watered it down, Maggie, then that would require the House to pass a new version of it before they brought it to the Senate. It looks to me, what I've just read online, that the Senate and these people, including Collins, have signed on in its current form, which is the form that we talked about having passed in the House several days ago. So that's 51 now. We've also, of course, got J.D. Vance, which would be 52 if there was a tiebreaker. But obviously, 51 is enough to break that threshold so that they can go with the simple filibuster and get it passed without having to have the 60 votes. Let's also hear from Based Mike Lee on this, because this came out after Susan Collins' announcement.
All right, so I'm getting a lot of questions. What's next now that we've got enough votes to get past a motion to proceed to the House-passed version of the Save America Act? We've got to put all of our efforts. I encourage everyone who will listen to you. The Senate needs to invoke the talking filibuster, to enforce the talking filibuster. If senators want to debate this, if they want to filibuster it, make them work for it. Make them stand up, make them speak. If we do it this way, we can continue this progress, and I think we can get this thing done. Look, there are no guarantees here, but the only shot we've got at this is through the talking filibuster. Thanks for fighting. Keep going. We'll get it done.
All right. So now also in regards to the statement she made about proving your citizenship every time. So the SAVE Act would require you to present your ID, your voter ID, when you actually vote. In order to register to vote, you must prove that you are a citizen of the United States. Then, once you're registered, you still have to show that you are the person who registered. So I think that what the change they were referring to is that rather than having to bring in your birth certificate every single time to prove that you are the same person, they're going to accept your identification as proof that you've already proven you are a citizen. So ideally, what this means is that in order to be registered to vote, you are going to be a citizen of the United States. That is going to do a lot to clean up the voter rolls of anybody out there who may not be a citizen of the United States. Hopefully, also, the federal government using that DHS database that they've already prepared, showing the matchups of people who are currently registered that are citizens versus people who are registered that are not citizens. That will allow them to clean it off. A lot of this is also going to depend on the current lawsuits that are in play with the states that are trying not to hand over their qualified voter files. Like I told you the other day, the state of Michigan just successfully rebuked the Department of Justice. I would imagine that that's now going to be appealed by the DOJ, unless, of course, there is some other methodology that they're hoping to employ prior to that. I would also like to see President Trump use that novel legal theory that he mentioned in his Truth Social post, even if the SAVE Act passes. Let's have as many methodologies in play that we can to ensure that only American citizens are able to cast ballots in the United States. Don't stop with just one thing. We need to gird the loins of this process. We need to set up a big, beautiful wall around the election process to ensure that only secure elections can exist inside the United States. Otherwise, it will just be a stopgap between fake and gay. Let me see. Yes, Politicat, Motor Vehicles Department needs to stop registering non-citizens, which is why I was mentioning that database from the other day. which the HAVV database, that's the system which allows states to compare the voter registrations against the actual citizenship status of a person. But in many places like Michigan, they automatically register people to vote regardless of their citizenship status without checking. And then, of course, you also have a lot of fake voter registrations that are for ghost voters and people who don't live at homes, et cetera, et cetera. Like I've said on many different occasions, there is a lot of work that needs to be done in order to secure the election system here in the United States. This SAVE Act voter ID, that is merely one step leading towards the ultimate security of our elections. Let me see. Emerald Dragon, good to see you. Mrs. Emerald said they don't have bird hands, they have pork hooves. That works. That works as well. All right. Moving on from the SAVE Act and voter ID, we have also learned that President Trump has terminated temporary protected status for citizens of Yemen. And that means that thousands of people are now going to be told to go home or they will be arrested. We know who every single one of these people are. Alejandro Mayorkas had given temporary protected status for citizens of Yemen initially during the Biden administration. That was extended through September 4th of 2024 and then again through March 3rd of 2026. That is when they will have to get out of the country. There was a civil war that people from there fled in 2015, and now it would appear that Yemen no longer meets the law's requirement to be designated as necessary for TPS. So Kristi Noem has put that into action. We are not going to extend that after March 3rd. Allowing TPS Yemen beneficiaries to remain temporarily in the United States is contrary to our national interest. TPS was designed to be temporary, and this administration is returning TPS to its original temporary intent. We are prioritizing our national interests and putting America first. So they've got essentially 60 days. If they don't leave the country, they will be deported. We will arrest them and we will put them on a plane ourselves. Don't forget also that President Trump has already ended migration from like 60 countries throughout the entire world. There are now many different places where if you hail from that nation, you cannot come to the United States of America. You have nothing to offer. We don't want you. You can go ahead and stay where you are. Now, Marco Rubio, also quick quote from him in regards to kicking people out. This is very similar to an analogy I've made on a number of occasions. If you came to my house to have dinner with myself and my wife, and when you walked in, you told my wife that she was fat and her cooking was shit, you better believe that I'm going to kick your ass out. The same is true if you come into the chat and you start disrespecting my wife, you're probably going to get banned, at least for the day. Same thing with the United States of America. If we invite you into our home and you don't follow the laws or you do something to otherwise burden the United States of America and our citizens, to uglify the United States of America, we don't want you here. We're telling you to get out.
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa. And once you've lost your visa, you're no longer legally in the United States, and we have a right, like every country in the world has a right, to remove you from our country. So it's just that simple. I think it's crazy. I think it's stupid for any country in the world to welcome people into their country that are going to go to your universities as visitors. They're visitors. And say, I'm going to your universities to start a riot. I'm going to your universities to take over a library and harass people. I don't care what movement you're involved in. Why would any country in the world allow people to come and disrupt? Now, we gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. I encourage every country to do that, by the way, because I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave. Every country in the world has a right to decide who comes in as a visitor and who doesn't. If you invite me into your home because you say, I want to come to your house for dinner, and I go to your house and I start putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen, I bet you're going to kick me out. Well, we're going to do the same thing if you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. We don't want it. We don't want it in our country. Go back and do it in your country. But you're not going to do it in our country.
Yeah, get the hell out. We don't need you here. You offer nothing for us. There is no reason to allow you to stay. Also wanted to make sure you guys are aware that the Treasury Department under the leadership of Scott Bessent is strengthening their fight against fraud, money laundering, and sanctions violations. FinCEN has now launched a webpage so that you can confidentially send in whistleblower tips, which can also lead to financial rewards. We'll hear more about those financial rewards directly from Scott Bessent in just a moment. But he also said that the president has been clear that Americans have a right to know what their tax dollars are being diverted to, whether they're funding acts of global terror or funding luxury cars for fraudsters. At Treasury, we follow the money. We did it with the mafia, we have done it with the cartels, and we are doing it with the Somali fraudsters. We are going to offer whistleblower payments to anyone who wants to tell us who, what, when, where, and how this fraud and money laundering has occurred. I want you to keep that in mind, because if you are a researcher and you find yourself coming upon a line of fraud and you want to make sure that that fraud stops and that you can be rewarded for your efforts, you need to take a listen.
Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network for whistleblowers that can actually be compensated if they come forward. Why wasn't this done before? It seems like a no-brainer.
I don't know, Joe, but it's very exciting. I think it's going to be a great way to ferret out waste, fraud, and abuse, starting in Minneapolis, which has been ground zero. So we are encouraging whistleblowers who know about fraud, people who are stealing from the American taxpayer, to come forward. At Treasury, we're setting up a website, and we will be giving rewards up to 10 to 30% of the fines that we levy.
Treasury's financial.
So you can make between 10 to 30% of the fines that these people are forced to pay. And I think that that is wonderful. All right, we are going to go ahead and end it there. Let me just go through all of the final thank yous over here on Rumble and Pilled, and then we will get going for the day. Let's see here. Thank you, everybody over there on X. I see you chatting. See people chatting over there on Getter as well. Final thank yous on Pilled. Let's see. Where did I leave off? I think that we left off with Mighty Patriot. Thank you for the shades. Thank you to No Thanks Joe, who says, thanks, Lisa and Zach. Happy Friday. Thank you for a great week of reporting, and have a great weekend. God bless you both, and stay safe. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you again Monday. Also, Abenon, 17 with the shades. Abe, I love you, brother. From another mother. Everybody make sure you are following Abe over there on Pilled, because he is a warrior in the truth sphere. Thank you also to Warrior Mima, who says, have a wonderful Valentine's Day weekend, Zach and Lisa. I also think that there was a Cash App that I needed to say thank you for. Get this pulled up here. And yes, Jessica, thank you very much, Jessica. Appreciate you. Oh, I did not mean to send you those lips. I meant to send you a heart. So when you get that, just know that that was inadvertent. All right. And that will be all. We'll go ahead and close it out there. But let me just remind everybody about the final sponsors of the show. First of all, my good friends over at onenessdrops.com/redpill78, where you can get your chlorine dioxide water purification kits. Water is essential. You can live 3 days without water. You can live a lot longer without food. Water is life. So if you don't have the way to make clean, potable drinking water for yourself, then you are not going to make it. So it comes in multiple different formulations. Personally, I like the hydrochloric acid version, but you can also do citric acid. And also they have mullein extract for healthy lungs, soursop extract for cellular regeneration, DMSO, which is also wonderful for all sorts of aches and pains and injuries. This is quite an incredible substance. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. When you use the code RP70 or RedPill78, you'll save 15% off your entire order. You can also order their bundles, which give you an additional discount on top of the already great price. You'll also still get that discount from my code. Also, Mike Lindell at mypillow.com. You can use code RP78 to get yourself some Giza Dream Sheets or their bath towels or a mattress or a mattress topper. My Pillows, of course, you can't forget about My Pillows. Everything at Mike Lindell and My Pillow is American-made, and of course, it's going to support his current run for Minnesota governor. He is still the front runner, as far as I know. And then, of course, my friend Jordan Sather over at ConsciousStrength.net. Use the code RP78 to save on all the products that Jordan offers. This is American health products, including the methylene blue, which is a nootropic and an enhancer of your brain. It also creates new neural pathways for neurons and the regrowth of those neurons. Of course, the Shilajit gummies are great, as well as the green energy and the collagen. Use all of these things. And Lisa and I were just talking last night about getting the Parashite, which is a parasite cleanse in a bottle. I'll tell you how that goes, or maybe I won't go into too much detail. But my friends at rncstore.com/RP78, where you can stock up on their Laetrile, apricot seed, and B17 products. This is something that I think most people in a certain age should be taking. And finally, that will... also, I wanted to say thank you to my friend Jessica over at goallgood.com/RedPill78. They, I believe there is still 1 day left to get in on the Valentine's Day sale. When you use code RedPill78, you will get a discount on the order. But if you order one of the bundles, you will also get a free sample of her tallow sunscreen. Of course, these are also American-made products, and they are good for your body and soul. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you to everybody supporting the shows and the channel. I really do appreciate it. And let me also say, finally, thank you to MarkyMark31, who just says, America. America, F yeah. All right, guys. See you Monday, right here, 5 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Peace. All right, on your way out, guys, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the share button. Help us get this show out there. But also, parents, time for some real talk for a second. America is about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday. That is 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just the fireworks and the hot dogs, but the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce your kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the ideas they fought for are still relevant today. This Kid's Guide sends kids back to the moment when the brave men who signed the Declaration of Independence put their names on paper, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way that kids can totally understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you're going to want to grab. And the best part, it's complimentary, totally free with this special offer. All you do is pay the $2 for shipping and handling. So head on over to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com, and the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. Thank you very much. You can use that QR code on screen or the link in the chat. And again, please hit that like button or the red pill on your way out. Thank you for being here. I will also be live tonight at 10:30 on Badlands Media for Friday's edition of Only Lands. See ya.